So, I made a big change the other day that I've been wanting to tell you about.
Oh, really? What'd you do?
I got rid of all my personal technological devices.
All of them?
Yeah.
Really? What about the device we're recording the podcast on right now?
Well, that's for work. See, the thing is, I don't want Skynet knowing about my personal business. And when the robots take over, they'll know everything about me and know how to predict my movements.
Okay, what about like the phone that you're on right now?
We talked about that in our last podcast. Phones are essential for work and stuff.
Aren't you doing YouTube?
Well, that's for fun.
Video games?
That's for fun. You're not understanding. I don't want Skynet to track me.
So what did you get rid of? Your typewriter?
Dude, you're just not understanding. The robots are going to rise up against us.
I think we should talk to somebody who actually knows about AI.
Okay, fine.
Hello and welcome to the Mike at the Helm podcast. I'm your host, Mike Spencer.
And I'm your host, Arza Helm.
Arza, you notice there's someone in the room with us this
Yeah. Today we have a certain Jordan Miller joining us.
Jordan Christopher Miller.
He is a local married man. He's a crypto guru, also an AI guru.
AI enthusiast, very big into that kind of stuff.
And he is very into philosophy, religion, all the works. Jordan, go ahead and say hi for us.
Hi, not really a guru. Any kind.
He's a teacher. He's taught us everything we need to know about AI.
Oh, I thought he was actually a teacher for a second. I was like, I didn't even know that yet.
No, he's not.
Oh.
He teaches me, and he's going to teach our 60 listeners.
Hell yeah. Wait, what do you do for a living, Jordan?
I'm in IT.
Okay. How'd you get into that?
Just working for a company. I was in the help desk, and I just kind of worked out of that into programming.
Okay. What type of company is it?
Mike used to work there.
It was a insurance company.
Oh.
Workers' comp.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where's that at?
Where?
Yeah.
We're located in Utah, Salt Lake, Utah.
Okay.
Yeah. Insurance.
Okay.
Cutting edge.
Hell
Exciting.
Oh, yeah. Nothing better than insurance.
yeah. Okay. Wait, so explain to me actually how workers' comp works. I know you get injured by the company and then the company calls a third-party insurance company.
Well, hopefully the company doesn't injure you.
Yeah.
But you get
They don't break
injured.
your legs.
You're working
At
for
work.
a company.
At work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fall down the stairs, get electrocuted.
Your company sends a hitman for you.
Yeah, they have different rules even. Like I know there are fast food companies or things like that where if you get hurt at work in any way, if you're not following every single safety guidelines, they technically don't have to give you any workers' comp. So like let's say you're slicing bread and you cut your hand, they could literally get away with saying like you weren't following safety guidelines because you weren't wearing non-slip shoes that day or something crazy.
Gosh.
Like that's a pretty common thing that workplaces will do.
Will they investigate you into it pretty heavily to prevent you from getting workers' comp?
Some companies will, some companies won't. Just depends.
Dang.
So I'm no expert on workers' comp or anything, but I know we're at a no-fault state. So everybody's got to have workers' comp.
Okay.
It's just insurance, really.
So what is a no-fault state?
Well, I think it used to be something like if they would assign fault to either the worker or the company or something like that.
Okay.
And now it's kind of like, you know what, everybody has to have it. It's mandated, so we're just going to spread the risk and the insurance company will just pay.
Okay, so
Something like that.
Is that to protect workers then?
Yeah.
Okay, I appreciate that.
I mean, in theory, I don't know what it really is, but who knows?
Okay.
Jordan, how familiar are you with QAnon?
Not really. The most I've heard about it was on your podcast.
Okay. So we've gotten some new information from Q, and it looks like it's still not over. Trump is still in the midst of taking over the universe.
One prediction should kill it.
Right?
I mean, the
One wrong
inauguration
prediction.
day
I mean, there's been
failed.
1,300, and all they're doing is pointing out, like, no, well, they predicted this tiny thing over here. It's like, dude, this dude shoots out text like 18 times a day. Of course he's going to be right. The clock's right. What, 12? Not 12 times a day. It'd be pretty good. The clock's right 2 times a day. That's what it is.
Yeah.
But it looks like they are going to have another takeover on March 4th. So I'm pretty excited about that to see when that comes. I have Heard some crazy people talk about that on social media.
Is that where you
March 4th
saw
the
it?
day.
Like Facebook or something?
Yeah. Well, I'm actually sometimes I'll follow Twitch lives and I'll go under politics. And sometimes like you'll just get crazy people that like are in the Discord and they'll yell at the guy who's streaming, and it's actually a really good time.
Oh, like they're yelling.
Crazy stuff, crazy QAnon stuff.
Oh, okay. Like March 4th, we're coming for you. God, Emperor Trump.
Pretty much,
live
yeah.
forever.
Doomsday callers. That's basically what I call it. Like, it's always pushing out to the future. No, the end of the world is today. No, it's tomorrow. No, it's the next day.
So
Wait,
it's always pretty close, though, right?
It's that's what
Right,
that's
Keep
what
you
they
on
say.
the line.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
Keeping
Keep you in a
scared.
state of fear.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wait,
because
so-
they're not going to be like Trump's going to be president again, 2074. Probably not.
Wait, so what's special about March 4th? Is something happening on March 4th?
I don't even know, dude. I mean, I'm sure there's some mild special thing like Biden's birthday. I don't know, something stupid probably.
So what's the plan for him to take over now that he's lost all of his power?
So they're saying, I guess Trump technically already called martial law because he had the National Guard come out to protect the Capitol. So he is currently under control of the army, and he's waiting in secret to take over.
I don't. I mean, I'm not like a constitutional law expert, but I'm pretty sure that's not how it works.
For sure. Crazy people, man.
Dang.
Yeah. Q. I mean, I don't see the point.
Oh yeah, dude. People. I mean, you know, there's freaks on every side. I just feel like I've never seen anything like such a serious president cult like this. So they actually talk about Wall Street being one of the like key points in the downfall of the country. So I guess Q has said that like stocks would go down before Trump goes back in, which is a pretty common like Republican thing. Like, oh, Democrats taking over, like everything's gonna shoot down. So of course that would be predicted. But you know, a big reason is that whole GameStop stuff. Arza, you wanna explain what's been going on recently?
Have you seen the GameStop stuff, Jordan?
No, just a little from your podcast. Mike told me.
Okay. So, Mike and I have been following it pretty closely. We like text at like 3 a.m. about it.
Yeah, we found out about it at $40. We should have gotten in there. I think I bought it at $200. So at least as of today,
What's it at?
which is I think it's at 312. It ended at 320
still going
on
up.
Friday, so it's still definitely going up. So I bought it at 200. So I made $112 off it.
So when do you start shorting it?
So
Because at some point, the masses have got to like give up. I mean, their attention span is like, okay.
for sure. So here's what's going on. Arza, do you want to explain it? About how the shorts are going?
Yeah. So, for those of you, and correct anything if I'm saying it wrong, but from my understanding, everything that's going on, what happened was these hedge funds, mainly Melvin Capital, correct?
Yeah.
We're looking to short GameStop. Essentially what that is they borrow stocks and then they place puts on those stocks that it will fall below a certain point, a bet on those stocks. And then once they sell the stocks, the value will plummet because of the influx of supply. And then they will make money off their puts and then they'll buy all those shares back when they're low and then they pocket the difference. And then they give the shares back to the company or hedge fund that they borrowed the shares from.
Right. And the people basically said, fuck you, fuck that, and we're going to shoot this to the moon.
Yeah. And so all these people on Reddit decided, hey, let's fuck over these hedge funds. And like when they sell those shares to make the stock plummet, let's all buy to make it skyrocket and they'll lose a bunch of money.
Because they'll have to buy those stocks or they'll lose it. So it's
Yeah.
going to grow up even beyond what it's at right now, the $320.
Yeah.
Because they'll basically be forced to buy everything back.
Yeah.
And so I think so far, Wall Street has lost, what is it, like 5 or 6 billion so far?
Yeah, the upper estimates I've seen are like 12 billion.
Yeah. So they borrowed all these shares, $15 a piece, thinking it would go down to 10, 5, and now it's at 312. So they
Yeah.
have a lot to pay back.
And the funny thing is, there's been like I don't know if you've seen like the newscast or anything. So there's like ads on news stations and stuff about how like retail traders like aren't experienced enough to know what to do in these situations and they aren't smart enough to handle these things and they're like trying to get people to panic sell. And all these news stations and billionaires are teaming up because they're afraid of retail traders being able to control the market.
Because they're so much bigger.
Yeah. Exactly.
If they organize,
Yeah.
then they can overpower anything.
Yeah. And that's what they're fearful of, is not being able to manipulate us in the market anymore. But when you think about it, $12 billion, the higher estimates of how much they've lost,
Right.
is like, I think it's 1/4%, or not even a full 1/4% of the wealth of Wall Street total.
It's
Really?
tiny.
I think 5% was 1/4%, right? So the 12 billion would probably be like a little over half then. But still, like that's like me losing what, like $6.
Yeah.
I make a lot of money. So 1/4% of what I make is probably somewhere around
So,
there.
does this represent like a change in how finance is done? Because if the little guys can organize now and they have means and communication methods to do so, I mean, is that a new thing? Are we going to see this again and again and again, or?
I think we are probably going to see this multiple times unless it gets shut down early. But
Yeah.
it's technically not illegal because we're not doing anything different than what Wall Street's been doing.
Yeah.
And they have way more money than we do. Like the 1% has 80% of the wealth. The 99% we got 20, and we're still doing crazy shit like this. Like that's nuts to me that we can all come together and do something like
Yeah.
this.
And I'm pretty sure technically what Wall Street does is illegal, because they do like inside trading with it, don't
Right.
they?
It's hard to prove insider trading.
Yeah.
Though, so
That's true. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think it's going to be a part of the market, Jordan?
I don't know. I just don't know. I mean, but being a crypto anarchist, sort of in quotes, I like the idea that we are building technologies for the average people to communication technologies for the masses,
for sure.
distributed, peer-to-peer.
So are you talking about crypto being that those structures for the masses, or are you talking about social media platforms like Reddit?
Both. I
Okay.
mean, crypto's newer than Reddit, but yeah, I think they represent the same kind of thing.
It's crazy to see that Wall Street bets. I think 2 weeks ago they were at like 1.5 million.
Yeah.
Now they're at what, 7 million
Yeah.
today? Like, dude, that is nuts.
In one night, they grew like 2.5 million or something like that.
Do you know how many how many subscribers r/Robinhood has? Only 600,000. So
Are you
Wall
serious?
Street bets, which is like all the people who use Robinhood and also try to kind of abuse it,
Yeah.
like that's what 10 times more. That's freaking nuts.
Dang. Yeah, hopefully, because another big scandal with all this is Robinhood shut down the buying of certain stocks. And because Melvin Capital invests heavily into Robinhood and does a lot of trading through Robinhood's brokerage.
Oh, I actually didn't know that.
And so that was their incentive behind shutting down buying, is because they wanted to keep money in those hedge funds.
Interesting.
And so hopefully they'll get sued out their ass.
You can only hope.
Yeah. But
So many things Robinhood could come out and say that would get him out of it, though,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
and now I'm sure you saw this. Everyone's trying to get it on Dogecoin.
Are they now?
Yeah.
Dogecoin. So it's funny. Ours and I, this happened to us at the exact same time, I guess. But a couple of years ago, we both decided to buy like 1,000 Dogecoin, and it was
Nice.
like $3.
Nice.
And we looked that night, and we saw it shot up to $80. So our $3 turned into $80.
So
Yeah.
you sold, right?
No,
We bought more.
I spent $250 on Doge, and then I lost $150 so far. But it'll go up. I think when people get bored of GameStop, Doge will be the new one. We'll see.
So my theory on Doge is that you can treat it as a kind of an emotion indicator,
It's a shit coin for
yeah,
sure.
it's a shit coin, but somehow, for some reason, this thing will spike and then go down, and then spike, and then so it seems like it spikes when people are interested in crypto or trading or
Yeah.
something, and then it goes down.
Isn't that all crypto? From what I've seen, that's like essentially all crypto is kind of like that.
Yeah, it's very spike, very crazy, volatile.
But Doge went up like 600% in a day, when Bitcoin can go up like maybe 40% on a serious spike.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, on its initial spike, it went up like from what, 500 to like 20,000 in 2017.
Yeah, that was over the course of months and months. I don't think it was 500. I think
Are you talking about Bitcoin?
Yeah.
I think Bitcoin was at least at $2,000 in 2017 start.
Right.
So,
Right.
but yeah, and I think that was months over because it hit $20,000 in November. I want to say
Something like that.
October maybe.
Oh, so that it wasn't like I thought it was like over the course of a month. I was in Taiwan at the time.
No, I don't
I wasn't
think it
allowed to
was.
read news on
That
my
was your
religious
mission?
mission. Yeah.
Dude.
I wasn't allowed to read news, so I had no idea. I was getting all my info through emails.
I feel like a big reason I bought Dogecoin is because I am so afraid of falling out of the loop on the cryptocurrency again. So there was a time back in 2016 when my good pal Jordan here told me to invest into Ethereum. And this is when it was only $12. And I had $2,000 at the time. Decided to put it into silver instead because I thought it was safer, which is true. It was safer at the time. And if you do the math today, that $2,000 is now $200,000 if I invested into Ethereum. And silver definitely did not go up the same way. So ever since then, I've been playing a lot riskier with my stocks.
It's good to have a pyramid so that you could have done like 1,500 in silver and then like 500 in,
Yeah.
you know?
I just feel so young now. Like I'm not gonna retire. I'm like if I lose, like that's what I think of Doge right now. Like I lost
Yeah.
$200. I'm like, Mer. I mean, I don't need this. You know, I think of it as like almost gambling money. And so if I could potentially make $5,000 off 200, and I'm there's a low chance and all that, but I do not ever want to have like that opportunity miss out on me again with crypto. So even though it might not ever happen again.
Wait, so what inspired you to look at Ethereum at the time?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I knew about Ethereum before that. I knew when it first was being like, the idea of it was
Yeah.
out. I knew it was coming out, but I didn't know if it was going to be a real thing. I don't even know what year that was. 2014 or something. I mean, it was a ways before
When it first came out.
when it first was being talked about.
I remember hearing about Bitcoin, I think, in like, I was in 9th grade, so like 2013.
Yeah, I think that's when it started becoming more common because I think it came out in like 2008, right? And then it started picking up traction on the dark web in like 2010,
Yeah.
and then the light web, whatever you call it, the normal web. I think that they started picking up in like 2012, 2013.
The
So
light web.
yeah, whatever.
The sanctioned web.
The normal web, your everyday.
The
web.
holy web.
Yeah, the holy web.
So, but then, so that since I knew about it in 2014, I thought, I'm not going to invest in this because I don't understand it. But it sounds cool and it could be cool. And then later in like, what was it, 2017?
No, I think it was 2016.
16?
Okay.
So then when I saw it again and it was still real and it was like a real thing that was running on peer-to-peer network, I said, okay, it's only $12 and it's a real thing. And so I should get into it now since it's real.
Yeah.
And then that's when it started going up.
You also found out that Microsoft was looking into that, right? They put some investments
Oh,
in
that's
Ethereum.
right. Yeah,
And that
I
was
read
like,
that somewhere.
And that was before it really started hitting the web that Microsoft invested in it.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the first initial $50 spike, right?
Yeah, that's what made me say, okay, maybe I should look into this.
Wait, so how did you find that out?
You know what? I was deleting junk emails, and I saw a heading.
Are you serious?
No way.
What?
Like it was in your spam?
It was in my junk, like promotions folder. Or
Oh
whatever.
my gosh. And you believed it?
And
I
I
would
was-
not believe that if I saw that in my
Well,
junk
because
mail.
you don't really see a lot of. I mean, I didn't see a lot of crypto names.
That's
Right.
true.
And
That's
And so
true.
when I saw Ethereum, actually, it didn't even say Ethereum. I don't even know
I was
why I
like, this
clicked on it.
cryptocurrency
Yeah,
might
it was like
grow
that.
100%. in the
And
next
I was
month.
like, oh, I know they're talking about Ethereum here. And that's when I was like, okay. Because they want you to click and then buy their newsletter, and then
Okay.
then you get to figure out which thing they're talking about.
Yeah.
But I
Jordan already knew.
So I was like, okay, maybe I should.
Dang, that's amazing. Would you say that's your best investment you made so far? Was Ethereum?
Yeah.
That's got to be
That's
right.
amazing. It's just off of a junk email. I need to pay more attention to that.
Yeah.
Got to look through my junk, see what's going on with Doge.
Yeah.
When to buy and when to sell.
So
That's
for-
not great advice. Don't.
Don't look through your junk email anymore for cryptocurrency. Okay.
So for people that might not be super familiar with crypto, or like me, I'm pretty scared to actually put money towards it. Like, are you cautious about it? What gives you hope for crypto in the future? Like, what do you have to say to people like that?
So why are you scared? You said scared, cautious.
Yeah. I'm very cautious because its value doesn't seem pegged to anything other than how much people are willing to pay for it. And I guess in a way that's how normal currency works, but there are different regulations by like major banks and institutions that will prevent the dollar from failing, or at least do their best to prevent the dollar from failing. But I feel like crypto is pretty easily manipulated.
Yeah, because it's so open and free.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. There's none of these brokerages that will shut down trading and be like, I'm in charge. Yeah.
Yeah, I wish we had those.
we need that for crypto. Yeah, no. We want free and open trade as much as possible.
Okay.
And so crypto is great for that.
Yeah.
But that does leave it open to huge manipulation. So, I don't know. You just got to understand that that's the world you're going to be walking into. And I think you can adjust. So,
there are governments out there that are creating their own cryptocurrency, right? Russia has their own cryptocurrency right now, and
yeah, I heard of a few, but I don't remember which ones.
But doesn't that kind of defeat the point of having like an unregulated currency if it's like a government?
Right, it's just a fiat currency with using the crypto technology.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think it's also Russia's way of being like, you can't buy any other crypto bars.
Yeah. And for those that don't know, a fiat currency, correct me if I'm wrong, is a currency that has the full backing of a government.
Well, I've never really understood what that term means.
What do you
full
mean?
backing of a government.
I think it means like how we have the Fed dedicated to like an institution.
Issuing it.
Issuing and regulating it.
Yes. So a fiat currency is a currency issued by governments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
As opposed to a cryptocurrency,
which is issued
by the protocol of the currency.
And the protocol, is that the algorithm?
Yeah.
Okay.
The algorithm.
And so do you want to explain that, how you mine crypto or whatever?
Well, sure. I mean, it's a peer-to-peer network.
Okay.
So all these computers around the world are running a program, and that program is talking to all the other programs.
Okay.
And they're all talking about a puzzle. They're saying, here's the input to the puzzle. We need to find the output. And so whoever finds it first wins and gets some Bitcoins. So that's how it's minted into existence.
Okay.
And so they're all trying to find this answer to this puzzle.
Okay.
That's what the proof of work algorithm is.
Oh, okay.
There's other ways to issue currency, cryptocurrency. There's like proof of stake and whatever. But proof of work is most proven to be like, I guess, democratic. Like.
Okay.
But anyway.
Like most fair, kind of?
Yeah, most fair, you could say. Ethereum has moved to proof of stake.
Okay.
And that is basically saying, I have so much Ethereum in my account. So I'm going to stake it, meaning I can't move it around, I can't use it. And then that gives me a right to randomly receive an increase.
Oh, really?
You know? So basically, I'm just going to receive a small percentage.
So you might get some interest back.
It's like interest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now those are so small, though, right? Like mining Bitcoin's not really worth it these days, just because you're not really getting anything. I think it's
because it gets harder and harder, right?
Yeah, and it's pretty much at the point where there's like a set amount of Bitcoin, right? They're not really creating any new ones.
They're creating new ones.
Still.
It dropped during the summer. Okay, so during the summer, Bitcoin was at $5,000.
Okay.
It dropped to $5,000 at one point. And that's when I told people I didn't have any money. I was buying a house.
Right.
I should have just not done that, but that's when I told people you'll never see 5,000 again.
Okay.
And because at that time it was going to half how much it was paying out every 10 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
So it went from like 12 or something Bitcoins down to like 6. I don't remember.
Okay.
Since I don't mine Bitcoin, I don't really care.
Right.
But I knew the supply of Bitcoins was going to slow down. So I thought, and it's really low. This is like the perfect storm to jump in and get some Bitcoins.
For sure. How soon do you think Bitcoin's going to hit 100,000? I know so many people have been talking about that.
I don't know. Could be this year. Could be next year.
Yeah.
It could. It would be weird, but it could have like a lull. But I do think it's going to hit 100,000 eventually.
Yeah, for sure. I think this year, especially with everything that's been going on with Robinhood, Reddit, and Wall Street, like I wouldn't be surprised if people get more and more into cryptocurrency.
Yeah,
Bitcoin is by far the most popular one.
It is. It's the most popular one.
Yeah.
Now, I wouldn't say this is advice, but I would say this is the way I view the crypto market. If anybody's interested, so Bitcoin has that going for it. It's the oldest, most popular. It's got the name recognition.
Okay.
Ethereum does other things. It does computation.
How do you mean?
Well, Bitcoin is made to be a currency. Plus, you could like program computation on top of it as well and stuff. But it was made to be a currency. Ethereum was made to be a computational thing with a currency. So you can program in smart contracts.
Oh, wow.
So if you want
That's
to
cool.
say, I don't know, if you want to sell somebody your car, you could issue a smart contract to the Ethereum network that says, when I receive this money, you know, if my car is hooked up to the network, make it so that his key works and not mine.
Whoa.
You can do stuff like that.
That's crazy.
So,
Cool.
so
That's crazy.
there's that world of just the popular currency. Then there's
More potential.
useful, programmable things you could do. That's Ethereum, and then there's privacy, because it's hard to do computation and privacy at the same time. So I see those as the three main groups of crypto. I think it's important to keep that in mind, just so you can see the whole space. You can chunk it up into different areas. And so we've talked about the Bitcoin for currency, Ethereum for computation,
Okay.
and then for the privacy, there's Monero. I mean, there's alternatives to all of these.
I haven't
There's
heard
lots
of
in
Monero.
all these groups.
Monero is mainly used on the dark web right now, right?
Yeah. So Monero is Bitcoin plus trying to get you not to be like pseudo-anonymous, but actually anonymous.
Okay, so is it like kind of like the 4chan of of cryptocurrency?
You could say that. Sure.
You can definitely track people on 4chan though, right? Like
Well, I'm
people-
just saying like Facebook versus 4chan. One is
Yeah.
pretty clearly anonymous, and the
Yeah, exactly.
I would say like Reddit versus 4chan. Like Bitcoin still tries to be like quote anonymous,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
they're not great at it.
They're not great at it. It's because you usually just buy it with a credit card, and then people know, oh, he bought this. He has this account. Yeah.
So
I know-
how do you buy Monero then?
Well, you don't buy it with a credit card. The
buy it
thing
with
that
blood.
Cold hard cash.
the thing that's different about Monero is you can't look up anybody's amount of how much they have. You don't know the history of transactions like you have with Bitcoin. So that's how it's a little more anonymous.
So is there like some central computer that determines its worth then, or how do you know like how much supply there is?
The algorithm, I mean, the code has it in there.
Man, I just don't know enough about all of this. So each unit of currency communicates with the other units of currency,
You could put it that way.
essentially.
Yeah, it's more like each computer program of Monero running
Okay.
on the PC communicates with all the other computer programs.
But it does it anonymously somehow, so you can't like tell where it's communicating with.
Well, you can tell where it's communicating, but you
Okay.
can't tell who has sent money to who. And as
Okay.
far as I understand it, it's just completely the top level. The way it does that is it's got like a tumbler built into the currency itself.
Okay.
So that's as far as I understand.
Okay.
That's the analogy I use in my mind. So
And so you can't just like go onto Robinhood and buy Monero.
No, but you can
don't
actually
know
look
if
at
they
Monero. I found out that you can't buy it or sell it, but you can look at the price to watch
Really?
it. Yeah, which I thought was kind of funny. So you can I think you can get off like sites like Coinbase, right? Like those kind of sites.
Mhm.
Okay,
yeah,
and I think it's at like 150 right now, somewhere around there.
yeah.
So it's pretty up
Dang,
there.
kinda
compared to-
well established.
People want that. I mean,
Yeah.
they want to be anonymous. Not just criminals. People want to be anonymous. They don't want you in their business.
Yeah.
You know, so
Especially in this day and age of increased surveillance. But
What's funny is like people think like of the deep web or the dark web as like only murder and child pornography and things like that. But I have friends that have like gone on the deep web just to see what's up, and they'll see like pictures of cats. Like it's pretty
They sell
similar.
everything.
Yeah, they have everything there, and a lot of the time it's like, you know, people in Russia or China who don't have access to the same internet, so they'll use the sites like Tor,
Yeah.
and they'll just like do, you know, like they'll post pictures of their cats or like memes. Like it's literally, it's just like internet plus internet premium.
it's
yeah.
internet premium. I like that.
Not everybody that uses it is evil, but it can be used for evil purposes.
Yeah, it's not dark. It's premium.
Premium.
Love it.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I've seen a lot of dark stuff on the normal web.
That's
So,
true. Yeah.
like, dark stuff everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the same as like,
Hiring a hitman.
well, not just that, but I feel like a lot of those hitman hiring sites are like just the government like waiting for somebody to be like, I would like to kill my wife. Like, here's $10,000, and then the government gets you. But I've heard of, and like these are like stories you read and things like that. But I bet you they're out there. But I'll see, like there will be people bidding on like like these guys will kidnap a homeless guy, and
yeah.
there'll be people bidding on like what they should do to him or
To
kill
like
him.
torture him and
Yeah,
stuff.
which is,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff's crazy.
It's sickening.
And I'm sure that's on the dark web, but
Yeah.
back to
And
the,
what's really interesting is that you guys heard of Ross Ulbricht?
no,
No.
I don't know who that is.
Oh God,
Is that a person?
poor man. Okay,
He's
so,
a what? Porn man?
Poor man.
Oh, a poor man.
You guys haven't even heard of him. Okay,
You're thinking of Johnny Sins.
so Ross Ulbricht, like, was the biggest player in the dark web.
Is he the one that made the
Silk Road.
Okay. Oh, I do know of him.
Yeah.
I have someone close to me that's actually a really good friend of his.
Really?
Yeah, I couldn't remember his name.
What did he make?
He made the Silk Road.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That's not a thing anymore, right? Silk
It's
Road?
not a thing.
Well, now
But-
there's the Silk Road 2.0, right?
of course. I mean,
There's
all
I'm sure
the
there's multiple
copycats.
sites that still sell online, but Silk Road was like huge.
But he was the crucified one.
Yeah.
Because they didn't, they wanted to scare people away. But obviously, people are just going to copy it and do it themselves, and there's all kinds of copycats.
Well, there are people that actually worked with him who like just started another one.
Yeah,
and it's like
exactly.
really big still.
Yeah.
But
So, but the reason I bring him up is that on his site, I mean, he was controlling it, so he was able to say, you know what, I don't want any child pornography on here.
yeah,
I don't even know if he allowed guns. I thought I read somewhere where he didn't even allow firearms to be sold.
I think
He's
it's
like, this is just drugs, okay? Let's just...
It's just meth. No big deal. It's just
So-
meth and crack. Maybe heroin.
So, I mean, it's just ridiculous because the government throws him in jail, makes him a martyr, crucifies him, and then all these other sites get more popular that are less moral, that say, we're just going to, whatever.
yeah,
Whereas before, if he had continued, well, you would go to him for your drugs, and if you really wanted a hitman, because you're a psychopath, you would go somewhere specifically for that. And now it's all conjoined. I mean, the government made it worse by throwing him in prison.
because now there's not this kind of cleaner alternative.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing as like those sites like LimeWire, like back in the day, where like those guys, you know LimeWire.
No.
So LimeWire was basically before like 2010. You couldn't just download music. It was like illegal.
Oh yeah.
You had to pay
Okay.
for all your music, and you wouldn't have subscriptions.
Yeah,
or anything.
I remember
And there were
LimeWire.
besides like LimeWire. I think there's a bunch of other ones, but LimeWire was the biggest one, and they ended up getting shut down, and people were arrested over it. But now there's so many sites today where you could just pop in and download it. I mean, you could download stuff off YouTube now, even.
Well, they have open source software where you can just download stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
like
these big guys.
BitTorrent or something.
Yeah, but these big guys, they take the hit, just like the Silk Road. Ross what?
Ulbricht.
Obrix.
So he got a life sentence. In fact, he got like, I don't know.
Yeah, a
what
bunch
it
of
is.
life sentences.
50 life
Yeah.
sentences. It's crazy.
Yeah, so this person that's close to me actually writes him in jail, like continuously.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I imagine so many people write him in jail. Like, you think about those, like, famous criminals, like serial killers.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure they get so many letters a day. So they were friends before?
I believe so. Yeah.
That's nuts, man.
Yeah, she's big into, I think she calls herself an anarcho-libertarian, and so she's really big into that movement of just like, do whatever you want, trade whatever you want.
So somewhere between libertarianism and anarchy?
I don't. I think.
They're pretty similar, kinda, right?
Yeah, I think it's because the current Libertarian Party is not
Is a
actual
political
traditional.
party.
What?
It's a political entity.
Yeah, it's not like an actual libertarian. They don't really follow traditionalist libertarian ideals anymore. I think
The
that's what
difference
it is.
between a hardcore libertarian and an anarchist is about 2 election cycles. I mean, after a little while, you figure out, okay, the Libertarian Party's not going to save us. Like, where else is there to go? I don't know.
Jordan, you're pretty big in anarchy, right?
It used to be,
Used to be, not so much anymore.
not so much anymore.
Okay.
What are you into now?
I got into anarchy because I was raised Mormon,
Okay.
like you.
Okay.
And after my mission, I kind of figured out, like, there's something I don't understand about the world, because according to my worldview, my life should be, like, wonderful.
Yeah.
I've done everything right. I should be
Yeah.
reaping the rewards.
Yeah.
And when that wasn't happening, I realized, okay, there's something I don't understand, and religion was off the table at that point. So I was like, I'm going to figure out what I don't know. I just have to be a little curious about the world now.
And religion was off the table because you.
It was so intertwined with my identity.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I started looking around. I got into, like, economics. Like, okay, well, how does the economy work? And that led me to, like, politics. And then I realized, oh, okay, I don't really feel good about the Republican anymore. And I'm not really left, so
Would you have considered yourself like a centrist at the time, or you just weren't really affiliated with anything?
well, I had always thought republicanism was the way, because that's the Mormon culture.
Yeah.
For sure. I know so many people that will be like, you can't be Mormon and Democrat at the same time. I think that's crazy.
That's so annoying.
Yeah. It's bad. So I don't know if I would have said I was centrist. I was more just like, I was big into freedom. I mean, that came from probably my Mormon upbringing, was that freedom's a big deal, and you should let people do what they want to do most of the time. And so I guess that kind of just led me to anarchy naturally. When I figured out that the government really messes everything up economically most of the time, I mean, it's just natural progression, really.
So did you transition from being Republican to being Libertarian, then to anarchy? Like, I feel like that's usually the steps down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But at anarchy, the left is usually, historically, the left were closer to anarchists than the right.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you'd have these anarcho-communists, and that's like the big group of, and I was more of an anarcho-capitalist, and now I can't really identify as that particular, or any particular label, but if you have to label me, you'd have to say anarchist.
Okay.
Yeah. People forget that the political spectrum is not just like a one axis spectrum, but it's at least 2 axes of like left, right, authoritarian, anarchy.
Yeah.
And so it's entirely possible to be, like, I feel like in today's political climate in America, people don't think it's possible to be like left and anarchist or right and authoritarian or whatever, but you absolutely can be.
I think, at least just in my opinion, I think no matter who you're voting for, whether it's Republican or Democrat, I think they're still both for big government.
Oh yeah, definitely. Just different forms of big government.
Exactly. So I don't think, at least with our political system right now, we're never going to get around a smaller government.
Yeah.
Just because of the 2-party system.
Yeah, that's how I felt. I felt like when I kind of identified as kind of libertarian and then anarchist, I felt like I was rising above kind of this singular line, this spectrum, where everybody was arguing like, well, I want government to be in control of this, and I want government to be in control of that. And I was like, wait, isn't there a third option? Government's in control of less and less and less.
Yeah.
That's how I felt.
Right.
Yeah, and even even like the conservatives who tout small governments, like, well, you want to like control stuff like abortion and control stuff like through the military or whatever, and like those are still forms of government control. Like whether you oppose those or not morally is a different discussion.
Exactly.
But those are still government control. Mm-hmm. And
any law is government control.
Yeah.
You're giving up your freedom for safety, basically.
Yeah.
For the most part.
And that actually, so a couple months ago, there was someone that posed a question to me of like, why do we care so much about our freedom? And she gave the example of this North Korean woman who escaped North Korea with her mom through the northern border in like the dead of night in freezing temperatures, and then made it to Mongolia and was put in some like camp there, and then eventually they escaped there into South Korea, and then in South Korea they were finally given their first like chance of freedom. And the South Korean government they put her on like some tour or something of South Korea to speak about North Korea, and they would ask her to introduce herself, like what's your favorite color? Or she didn't know how to introduce herself,
right?
Because she'd never been given that opportunity. You know, their favorite color is the color of the country's national flag, or her favorite person is their supreme leader or whatever. And so she was like, how do you introduce yourself? And they're like, oh, just say like your favorite color and your name and stuff like that. And it like terrified her, like this idea of like having to make decisions for herself. Mm-hmm. And she said that
it's probably all the judgment that came with that too, right? Because I'm sure, back when she was in those more authoritative countries, if she said anything outside of the correct answer, I'm sure she would get punished in some way.
Yeah.
And she said that at that time she wanted to go back because she was afraid of this like freedom. And now she's in America, and she's like really big on speaking out about freedom, and she like loves being out of North Korea now and everything. But like, I thought that was a really interesting question of like, what about freedom is so appealing?
I think people also have a hard time going outside of what they're used to, right? Like there's even like what you were talking about. So slavery is still a big issue today, right?
Yeah.
Like there's still slaves even in the United States, and there's been stories of them like just basically like when they get free they'll just still work for the same people.
Yeah.
Because they're like, well, I don't really know any different, and I'm comfortable here, and I'm happy, quote, happy here, and it's just people. I think people don't like to leave their comfort zone.
Yeah.
A lot. So.
And there's the whole argument even about like wage slavery in the United States, of like being trapped to like working your whole life at low income jobs just because otherwise you'll die, right? And you don't have much mobility to move around or anything. And so it's like, what level of freedom do we have right now? And why do we value it so much? And I don't know. I just wanted to pose that to you guys. Like, I think it's an interesting question.
It is a good topic. I think part of the thing is you got to disassociate you have to differentiate two different forms of freedom.
Yeah.
And the one is the wage slavery. Like, how much of that is just economics?
Yeah.
Like, we need to move our limbs to grow food, like we got to do stuff. And how much of that is, well, all the money's being taken by some people, and so that's why you're a wage slave.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a combination of both, but I think mostly it's just the economics. Like, we got to farm to live. But in the future, that won't be the case. I mean, we're coming up with AI that is going to really make automation possible.
Yeah.
But then the other form of freedom, or of non-freedom, I suppose, is just the coercion of this person has arbitrary control over my decisions because there's an imbalance of power. And is that imbalance justified? Or is it justified? Because it is justified in some cases, like with a parent. A parent has a huge imbalance of power, but we want them to have a huge imbalance of power because the child doesn't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So
could even be the same for like the government. You know, like making like the government has a control on force, so they're allowed to use force, but you're not with things like. I mean, I don't want to say like murder or violence, but you know, if you do commit murder, like they are allowed to take you to prison, things like that.
Yeah.
Right. So whether it should be the case or not that government has a monopoly on force and violence, it does. And so that means it's literally in the same position of an imbalance of power as a parent to a child, of the government to the citizenry. So that means it should behave like a good parent. And I'm not saying that it should take care of us. What I am saying is it should have as its goal the ability to get rid of its power. Because what you want to do as a parent is get your child to grow up as fast as possible, to be like mature, to be their own person, so that you don't have to control their life.
Definitely.
And that is not what the government wants to do, right? So, so they act like a bad parent. So
The helicopter parents that still call you every day and make sure you're not on drugs or whatnot.
Yeah. Anyway, so
Call the teachers.
So when I mean, the reason I can't like really associate with like just the blanket anarchist label is because I kind of want to live in the real world and say, well, if this is the way it is, I shouldn't just complain about, okay, the government shouldn't have this power. What I should be saying is, how do we move towards an ideal? Because maybe my ideal's not really the ideal.
Yeah.
But it's probably in the vicinity of what's more ideal. So we can just move incrementally and realizing things like that, of like what the government should be. I think it helps. I don't know.
Right. Well, you even talk about Marxism, which is basically like a utopian society. And I feel like even when you're arguing things as opposite as like full government control versus no government control, I think people tend to lean toward the idea of a utopian society, which I would think that, you know, it doesn't really matter what government you have if you already live in some kind of utopian society. And so I hope that we transition to be better as humans, but whether that be with, you know, an authoritative government or not, I think either way it'll work out. I think we're inching forward, especially with the amount of democratic countries that are coming out. Democracy countries, I mean.
That's a good point. I mean, I run into this problem with anarcho-communists all the time, where they're like, oh, you're an anarcho-capitalist, you can't really be an anarchist because capitalism creates governments and all that kind of stuff. So
I kind of believe that a little bit, actually.
Yeah.
But you can say the other way around too, right?
Yeah, 100%. But sorry.
But I mean, all I'm saying is like, you could call a communist utopia, an anarchist communist utopia, capitalism with most of the behavior, economic behavior, being charity. I mean, you could. So a lot of this is just semantics.
Yeah.
But I think we want to give the individual more and more control.
Yeah.
Over their life.
Yeah, I like kind of what Mike was saying. I just don't see a situation in which any structure wouldn't lead to a government.
Yeah, because there's always going to be a hierarchy of power.
Yeah,
or some kind of power.
Some sort of organization, whether that's to distribute resources or...
We were even talking about HOAs last podcast, and how that almost acts like a smaller form of a government over a neighborhood.
Yeah.
And so even with our government, there's still smaller governments and things like that. Like, I don't know, it's hard to get around full power, and I think to get into the anarchy, you would need some true utopia, I think.
Right. Oh, which
would be awesome.
That's the goal.
Yeah, that's what the founders figured out. Was like, oh, we should have we have a hierarchy of power. Yeah. We shouldn't be vertical. We shouldn't have like a king and then all the subjects. We should have like a structure where governments are over smaller organizations, over HOAs, over people, whatever. So
here's a hypothetical. So you were talking about freedom and all that. Let's say that you could have a chip inserted into your brain where it would make you love to work. And like the second you clock in, you're like so happy to work and all that. Like, do you think? And that's all you wanted to do, basically. Do you think, like I'm just saying, I don't know. They will cut this out.
No, this is interesting.
I don't know how interesting this is, but if you were in a position to like have a chip inserted into your brain where you would love to work, and all you want to do is work, like, would you consider that freedom? If that was still, if you just got that burst of dopamine every time you wash dishes?
That's a hard question.
That is a very hard question.
Because this is something I've thought about for probably the last 10 or 12 years. It's like, what is true freedom? And, we don't have to get into that free will kind of thing and how, there's all those theories that we're all a bunch of meat bags.
Yeah.
And,
Well, so when the founding fathers were around, there was, I forget the guy's name, but there was a political philosopher, and I don't know if this is kind of what you were talking about earlier, but he differentiated between positive and negative freedom. Oh. And I forget which is which, but one of them is like a freedom of thought and like a freedom to critically think and turn those thoughts into actions. And then the other one is like the freedom to do whatever you want, whether that's like murder or steal or move to somewhere else that you want to move to, or any action really. And so I feel like that chip would take away a little bit of that like freedom of thought and that individualistic thinking.
What if you were in charge of the chip? So you could turn it on. You could say, hey, today I want to be happy at work. That's it. I mean, this is an important question, I think. I mean, because AI is coming on board and it might be conscious.
Yeah.
And we don't want to just offload our drudgery to other beings that are conscious. Maybe if they're unconscious, we want them to work without drudgery.
For sure. I mean, it's crazy because you think about, like your frontal lobe and what that wants, where it wants things like cookies and sex and video games and things like that. And then the back of your brain, I don't know what that's called. I just have frontal lobe. And then the back of your brain, where it's like, oh, let's get success. Let's lose weight. Let's go on a diet. Things like that. Like, let's be happy long term. Meaning, yeah. So it's kind of funny because, I mean, you almost have that chip in your brain already, but it's for the opposite. It's for unproductive things. It's for sitting on the couch on your phone. It's for going on TikTok. It's for scrolling through Facebook instead of things like work. So we already almost kind of had this chip. This is why...
But you can make it work.
Right.
If you work.
Exactly. So I don't know. I think how I kind of define freedom is like the decision to actively do something even if you don't want to do it. But that's kind of like the weird conclusion I've come to, at least when it comes with this chip in your head kind of style thing.
That is weird because one philosopher teacher that I had made the argument, you always do what you want to do the most. And a lot of philosophy is just semantics, which bothers me a lot. But his argument was, well, you wanted to get ahead at your job, so you worked hard, even though in the moment you didn't want to. But you did what you wanted to the most. And you don't have a choice not to do what you want to do the most.
Right, the meat bag philosophy, right? Yeah. Where, you can't control anything and then it's all your brain making these impulse decisions. That scares me.
Everything's calculated out.
I don't want to live like that. I mean, it's funny because I'm a firm believer in things like where, if you were born with the same genetics as Hitler and you went through all the same experiences as Hitler, I believe that you'd be Hitler. But that also takes away my thought that I can make decisions for myself because I don't know if I can. And it's really scary. I don't know. That's not something I like to think about too much.
Yeah, well, that gets into like metaphysics. Sorry, did I cut you off?
No, I was just gonna say like the same thing he was saying, where I kind of feel like we don't really have a full freedom of choice, and that leads into metaphysics. Yeah.
It leads into conscious awareness, I think, and that's really what I spend way too much time thinking about. Is what is conscious experience? Do you guys think about that ever? Like, reflect on the fact that you're aware?
Yeah, and I wonder a lot of times, like, how many other living beings might have this ability, but we just, like, don't have a way to measure it.
Oh, like animals?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or even other humans.
Yeah.
Some people are dumb.
You think maybe humans might not have that ability?
I don't know. It's hard, right? Because it's all personal experience. But I mean, Jordan, we've talked about this, where it almost feels like I go through some kind of phase. It could even be 2 minutes. It could be an hour. But where I feel so aware that I'm aware.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I feel like the more you talk about it, you're like, holy shit! Like I'm right here. I'm alive. I'm me right now. This is crazy.
Yeah.
And I feel like, at least for me, like that's always like mildly in the back of my head. Then I'm like, yeah, I'm alive. Like things are going well. And, you know, it slowly goes to the front of my head where it's like, what the hell's going on? How am I even experiencing talking to you guys right now, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's weird.
And now I'm like conscious of it, and I'm like, okay, now like the input and then the outputs while I'm talking.
Right. Do you ever feel like so aware?
bizarre.
Like, do you ever
Yeah.
go through those phases of being like, holy shit? Like, what
Yeah.
the hell's going on? This is weird.
There's been a few times when I've woken up with a start, as if I was like late for something or something. I'm like, I'm
Right.
aware. I'm awake. Oh my god.
Right.
And like it's so real, you know.
You were late to plug back into the simulation, back into the Matrix.
It's like I'm real. I mean, probably that's not normal.
I don't know. In the podcast episode 3, I was talking about how I get stuck in dreams, and I feel like
Yeah.
a big reason why I get I don't know if scared is the correct word, but like frightened or whatever. I think it's because like I don't have control over everything that's going on.
Now, why don't you have control if it's your dream?
Do you have control over your dreams, Jordan?
I have had control. It's rare. It's a rare occasion. But sometimes. When I become aware, I have much more... the probability of me having control over the dream goes up significantly.
Really? Yeah, I can't. I mean, I can do weird things. Like I can be like I could put on gloves or something. Like nothing that's like important. I can't do anything cool. I can't fly. I can't, eat a fancy meal and taste the whole thing. It's pretty. It's like, yeah, I'll put on a shirt or whatever. Just stupid stuff. It seems like with that I can control.
When in these dreams, when you become aware that you're dreaming, have you had the situation where you feel like you can talk to your subconscious?
The only thing I really think I try to talk to my subconscious is like, get me the fuck out of here.
Really?
Yeah, kind of pretty much. I mean, I don't know. It's like we were talking about sleep paralysis too, and I don't think I feel that, but I definitely feel like I'm aware that my body is down, but I'm still in the dream state. I don't know. I don't know if anybody else feels like this. I wish people would comment more because I would like to relate to somebody. Because everybody I talked to about this has been like, what the hell are you talking about?
Wait, like that your body is like laying in your bed.
Yeah.
But you're okay.
Like my body
I've had
feels
that.
heavy. Like I cannot move it.
Oh.
But I'm still in the dream state. So it's not sleep paralysis where like I'm awake.
Yeah.
But like I'm like, my body's over here.
Yeah.
And I can move around, but I can't move around. I don't know.
I have had dreams where, now that you're talking about it this way, like I have had dreams where it's weird because I didn't know, like I was in a dream, but I knew my body was somewhere else. Like I knew where I was. I knew I was in my bed and next to my significant other, but like in my mind, my dream was still real. I don't know if that is making sense at all.
Are you talking about where like the TV is on when you're sleeping and you kind of get like the TV dreams, like where you hear the voices? Does that make sense? Or
Oh, kind of, yeah.
like where it's
And
a
I,
mixture of being aware and being in reality?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that what you're talking about? Or no?
You're just talking about being aware that you are in your bed, laying there.
Right. And you know
But
how you go into like
you're
a frozen
experiencing
state.
something else.
You know how you go into a frozen state when you're in deep sleep. Like you're
Yeah.
not moving around when you're in deep sleep. You're not. I don't think you're snoring when you're in deep sleep. And so you're basically like flat as a log. And that's when I feel like I'm more aware that I'm dreaming. It's like, oh, I'm not even moving around right now.
Oh, I see.
So it's still that mixture. And I feel like I could relate to that, definitely. I think more people can relate to that, where it's like, you'll fall asleep around your family and you'll hear them talking and they kind of influence how your dream's going, more information going in your head.
Yeah.
You seem very aware when you're unconscious.
I know, isn't that creepy?
Maybe you don't get very good sleep.
I
Maybe you need some melatonin.
slept 3 hours today
Oh my god.
and I feel great. But I've also drank a lot of coffee.
And pina colada.
Oh, yeah. We are drinking pina coladas today. Jordan kind of suggested it as a joke, and I took it very seriously. I decided to blend some pina coladas.
And it's
they were,
very good.
we make some mean pina coladas, we found out.
They were actually pretty impressive.
So anybody who wants to come on, please request a pina colada.
Or any other drink, but probably pina coladas. We prefer those.
At least right now. We'll see.
You should try seeing if you can talk to your subconscious in your dreams, in your sleep.
Have you tried that?
I always feel like I'm more connected to my subconscious in my dream. Like, I'll tell you the experience.
Okay.
I had a dream. I know people don't like to hear about a weird dream some people have, but
I love weird dreams.
I'll make
like
it quick.
about it.
I had a dream where I was like on some kind of like hunt, like I was treasure hunting
Oh, okay.
with like other people, and like in the pyramids or whatever. And then all of a sudden the dream changes. We're doing other stuff, and I'm getting frustrated for some reason.
Right.
One of the dream characters looks at me and he's like, "Dude, like, what do you want?" And I was like,
dang.
I want to get back to treasure hunting, you know? Now, okay, you got to be careful when you're talking to your subconscious, because I did not want to get back to treasure hunting. I wanted to find the treasure. But I didn't say that.
Right.
So for the rest of the dream, he's
Stuck in
like,
that
okay,
loop.
let's go treasure hunt. And we hunted for treasure the rest of the dream.
Mm.
And I woke up and I was like, why didn't I just say, I want to find the treasure? Because that's what I want. So I do feel like you can talk to your subconscious in your dreams.
Is that kind of how you perceive, what is it called? Where you can control your dreams? I just
Lucid dreaming?
Lucid dreaming. Is that like you kind of making a deal with your subconscious?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
But so if all you're saying to your subconscious is, get me out of here, you know, like what's it going to do with that?
Well, I even talked about how it'll put me in my own room. Or at least what I recognize as
It'll
my
be
own
like,
room.
okay, I'm going to do my best. It's very literal.
Yeah.
So I'll put you in your room. Sure.
Wake me up. I'll say that next time. We'll see.
Wake me up.
It's not every night, but it's like a solid 2 or 3 nights a week that I'll like
Wow.
be awake and asleep at the same time.
Yeah, I remember my dreams maybe once a month.
It's weird how much your dreams like will influence you. Like you've heard about that thing that's been going on where like, I guess people are talking about it more on TikTok is why I'm bringing it up. But I guess people will go to sleep and they'll dream about somebody and they'll wake up and all of a sudden have like a mini crush on them.
Oh, yeah.
Because I've totally done that.
I've had that, yeah.
It's so crazy how like just you dreaming about somebody or like, I don't know, like you'll dream about somebody and you'll wake up and you'll immediately text them.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, how you doing, man?
Yeah,
Like,
I do that a lot, too.
It's crazy how like your subconscious just kind of talks to you.
Do you think that happens in your waking life? Like your subconscious sending you messages or transferring information back and forth?
What about you?
I see the entire world as my own subconscious. So, I mean, if you're going to talk to like a neurobiologist or like a psychologist or something like that, they would, when they use the term subconscious, they might be talking about the brain. They might be talking about parts of the psyche, which is happening somewhere in the brain, right?
Mm.
I kind of use it as a blanket statement. Everything that I'm not literally conscious of, maybe in control of, is underneath my subconscious. Or is underneath my conscious. It's, by definition, subconscious.
Yeah.
So that includes the parts of my psyche that I can't access directly.
Mm.
And it includes, which is probably happening, like temporal lobe and frontal lobe kind of stuff. And it includes below that, where you have like sending down signals to the heart. Okay, you got to keep beating, you know. That's subconscious, and it happens below that, where it's just your body. And so then I see it extending out into all reality.
Right.
Is everybody's subconscious.
Mm.
So
Are you saying like everyone's subconscious like connecting at a certain level, or?
I could say that, yeah. Like the world is all of our subconscious experience. I see the human as a pyramid where the conscious experience is the peak, everything below that. And you could say, well, that just connects into other humans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least from what we know of too, right? That could be something that's way more conscious than we are.
Yeah.
There.
That's right, yeah.
So to us, we're the peak.
Yeah.
It's the same thing where, like, to us, like, we think we know all the colors, or, you know, whatever, or
Which
have all the
makes-
senses.
Exactly. Makes you wonder, is the internet, is the social media conscious?
Yeah.
Does it have an awareness of its own?
Well, earlier we were talking about Neuralink with Elon Musk. You know, you get a chip in your head and you kind of get like a third layer of consciousness almost. It's like kind of bionic.
So
And-
let's explain Neuralink for people who don't. God, I have no idea what Neuralink is.
Oh, I was trying to do a quick explanation.
Well, I want a longer one.
Okay. From what I know about it, essentially, you will get kind of like a chip in your head, some sort of computer in your brain that will integrate into your consciousness. And I know, so Elon Musk is kind of funding it, spearheading it. And I know his kind of intention with it is to add a third layer of consciousness. So we have like a survival consciousness, and then as we've advanced, we've gotten, like, as we get better tools, better workflows, better able to produce as a society, we have now been able to have like more of a critical thinking consciousness. And then he's wanting to add like a third level, which is technological and like a cyborg type of deal.
Interesting.
And so, and his argument is like, we're already there. Like, we already like don't keep track of a ton of information anymore just because we know we can Google
We
it.
offload it.
Yeah. And I forget how we got into this. What were we talking about right before this?
Consciousness, the structure of consciousness.
Oh, yeah. So some people think that in the future, like even past Neuralink, everyone will link up to one network and all humanity will essentially be one consciousness and one brain, and each person will be a neuron.
And that's when
essentially.
we meet the aliens.
That goes back to the freedom thing too, right?
Yeah, it does.
So can you go over like the cyborg stuff? So it would be like almost kind of, I mean, not the exact same, like how Google Glass was like, oh, you can look anything up on the internet. Like, would you do that like with your neural chip, or how does that work exactly?
I know that there's a lot of intentions that he's planning on. Like, I know there is stuff where there'll just be a database of like facts or like a calculator in your brain or whatever. But then there's also aspects of it like, oh, it can, like your femur is broken. And so then it will activate certain chemicals in your brain that will make it more aware of that femur and send more healing cells or chemicals to that area to make it heal faster. Or if someone like has a tumor, then it can target the immune system towards that tumor more accurately.
Wow.
Or stuff like that. So it's even it's just there to enhance essentially all aspects of what the human brain
You
does
guys
right
watch
now.
Rick and Morty?
Yeah.
To me, it just sounds like it's going to be that lady. What was it? Unity.
Oh yeah,
It's just going to
Unity.
be like Unity.
Yeah.
What's Unity?
She's the race is called a hive mind, and the race goes around to different planets, and they take over the whole race's brain, and enslaves them, and makes a utopia.
Right.
Like forces them into a utopia by forcing them to all have the same mind.
So I'll be like the same kind of person, almost like clones of each other.
Well, yeah, all one conscious experience controlling an entire
Yeah.
species or world, really.
Scary stuff.
I can't believe you don't watch Rick and Morty.
I have seen
What's wrong
a
with you?
season and a half. Okay, I don't watch a lot of TV. My girlfriend makes fun of me because I'll literally I'll just turn off the TV like halfway through a TV show. She's like, I can't do that. How do you do that? I'm just like, I don't want to watch it anymore. Like, I don't know. I'm not a big TV guy. I'll rather record a podcast.
Nice.
Yeah, we do that all day, every day.
Yep, we just post the good ones.
So, you guys want to hear a weird thought experiment?
No, I'm kidding. I do.
Okay. So we talked about this, Mike, years ago, and I've kind of taken a little bit further. Okay, so this might take a little while. Is that okay?
Yeah, it's totally fine.
So,
We're looking to make this one 5 hours.
At least. We want it to be longer than any one of the JREs.
this has to do with conscious experience. So,
Okay.
In my mid-20s, I don't know, I lost religion, which meant I lost immortality.
Oh, okay.
I was like, oh my God, I'm mortal. Like, for real. It's just going to go black when I die.
And you were like in your mid-20s when this was going on?
I'm 23.
23.
When I started processing this reality. So then I said, okay, well, maybe I should look for immortality somewhere. Maybe I can transfer my conscious experience into a machine, into a computer. So maybe it's possible. If my brain, I was kind of a material reductionist at that time. If my brain is just a machine, I should be able to transfer the conscious awareness, whatever that is, onto another machine.
Right.
So I thought, okay, well, how would you do this? And have you guys heard of the ship of Theseus?
No, I haven't.
In Greek mythology or something?
Yeah. It's like a thought experiment.
No. I mean, I recognize the name Theseus, but that's all.
So, I mean, I basically came up with that idea. And what it is you have this ship sailing around the world, and it keeps running into things or breaking or whatever. So each part of it is being replaced
Right.
all the time. And so then the question is, once it gets back to its original destination, and it's a completely different ship because every single part's been replaced, every crew member, everything about it. Then the philosophical question is it the same ship? You know,
For sure.
To me, it's kind of like, well, that's just semantics. So I thought of a thought experiment saying, if in the future we have nanotechnology where it can replicate a single neuron exactly. And so you could inject one neuron and it would go into your brain and it would find a neuron and it would look at how it's connected to the other neurons. And then it would kill that neuron and take its place. And I said, if you did that with one neuron, you probably wouldn't have any change in your awareness.
Yeah.
Right? Nothing. And so then if you did it with another one, and another, and another, and another, until you have replaced them all, you would still be the same person, right? You'd still be aware, probably.
Right.
What do you guys think?
Well, we even talked about it. All your cells replace themselves after every
that's
7 to
right.
10 years.
You
so
mentioned that.
you're basically a brand new person. I think your atoms replace themselves every 5 years. That's a big philosophy question in Buddhism, where it's like, where they talk about like, oh, sensei, like I don't know if sensei is the right word. I don't want to use that, but like, you know, where they talk to their superior and they ask him like, well, what am I? And then they will go and cut off their arm, and then they'll point at their arm on the floor and be like, is that you? And then they're like, no, I'm like, that isn't me. But it's like, you know, what makes you you? Right. That's a big. I think that's a big question in Buddhism.
I think that's a big question of humanity. Like, and that's like the idea of like a lot of people have of like a soul is, it's like our soul is what is intrinsically us.
Right.
But
It's natural to come to that conclusion.
yeah,
To say, well, there must be some atomistic unit that can't be broken down that is representative
Yeah.
of me.
and so what do you believe now? Do you believe that there's darkness after death, or
No, I don't. Well, I sort of don't.
okay? So what does that?
If you identify with the body, I think there is darkness after death.
Okay.
Because for the body, it's done, right?
Mm.
But I don't think I think that's a misidentification. You have to identify with awareness. And I don't think you can destroy awareness.
Okay. So when we die, what do you believe happens with that awareness?
I don't know.
But you
I
think
don't
it
know.
exists somewhere?
Yeah, I think it does. I think we're built on layers. And so...
Conservation of mass and energy.
Yeah,
Right. That's
I
kind of
mean,
what you're going for.
you kind of break up and reassemble somehow. I don't know. So the question is, if you're still conscious after you have this technological brain rather than a biological brain,
Yeah.
you're still conscious as you.
It just goes into so many other things, right? Where it's like I personally believe that if I were killed and then my consciousness was uploaded into a computer, I'd be like, well, that's not me.
It's not you.
And then you could also go for things like being cryogenically frozen and then woken up in 100 years. And it's like, is that even still you? Right?
Right.
Like,
well,
who
that
knows?
would be kind of like going to sleep, though. You
I
might
guess.
say that that's you.
Well, they even talk about like Star Trek and those teleportation. Like they're literally destroying you
Yeah.
into a bunch of different light and then teleporting you somewhere else.
Yeah.
Which is them basically murdering you, and
Yeah.
then an exact version of yourself reappears.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
So-
and maybe for the past you, that was like a horrific death. It was super painful.
but the new you doesn't even remember it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, maybe you're the story that you tell yourself that you are?
Yeah. And well, it's like interesting because even with our cells replacing us, like our actual living cells replacing themselves, like I think they say but every like around 5 years you have like a major shift in even beliefs.
Yeah.
And maybe that's part of it. Maybe your cells replacing themselves like cause a big change in your thinking, the way you're.
Well, and there's things
brain
like if you
works
get an organ transplant,
Yeah.
you often somehow become more like the person who had the organ.
Yeah.
Is that a thing? Like, is that?
I've heard that. Yeah.
Really?
I don't.
That's a real
I don't know. I've never like researched it a ton, but I've definitely heard it.
That's kind of like what's that one book that talks about the Unwind?
Yeah,
What it is?
Unwind.
Where you kind of take over like a little bit of their personality, or like the arm almost has like a
Mind
mind
of
of
its
its
own.
own.
Yeah.
Ugh, that stuff is creepy, man.
It's creepy.
Yeah.
I think it's so fascinating.
It's fascinating.
It's fun. Like, what about blood transfusions? Have they talked about? Because I know if you get young blood in you and you're like an older person, you're actually like healthier because you have all those new cells, and that's vice versa though. So if you're young and you have old person blood, like your cells get weaker. So
Really?
I think they try to give kids blood. I'm not 100% sure on that,
I would imagine if.
but I think they
that's true.
try not to give like children that need transfusions and things like that, like older people blood.
That's
Oh,
interesting.
that makes sense. Have y'all played the Halo games?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Well, the first one.
The first one?
Just the first one?
Yeah.
And have you read any of the books?
No.
Okay, I'm a big Halo nerd. I've like read all the books, played all the games, and in there's very advanced AI. And I don't know if you remember Cortana,
That's right.
but a lot of AI is just intense algorithms programmed like what we see today, as far as I understand. But then there's this type that's a lot more expensive, and so they really don't do it very often. But there's this like super genius scientist lady called Dr. Halsey, and essentially they form an AI around a person. They like scan their brain and then like replicate it exactly in a computer somehow.
Is this when they both exist at the same time?
What do you mean?
Like they scan someone's brain, they're still alive.
Yeah.
And then also their consciousness is in the computer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so essentially they scan this Dr. Halsey's brain, make an AI, and that AI is Cortana.
Mm-hmm.
And they like think the same and have like they have the same fondness for people. Like they both really like the Spartan 117, but they are different entities.
And they also, that's the moment where they branch off, too. Like they were one person.
Yeah.
And then they became separate people with separate experiences.
Yeah.
Causing opinions to change.
Yeah.
Everything like that.
Yeah, and like I don't know. In answer to your question, that's kind of how I see like if a brain is replaced. Like I guess kind of at the starting point, it's the same person, but like if they could exist separately, they would
Right.
be like different entities.
They would
I
have
don't know if-
evolved differently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is this making sense?
That
at all?
makes sense.
I don't know.
Yeah. But if you say, oh, well, I want to identify with my conscious awareness, and I say, okay, even if it evolves differently than it would have, that's still me, right?
Yeah.
But if it's like a replicated in a computer, and then I'm out here, and the one in the computer is like, no, I'm the real me. Well, I'm not having that experience, so it's kind of a question: how do you jump into a computer so that you're not in your biological or even technological mind?
For sure. I'm sure everybody here is familiar with Star Wars. Right?
No, what is that?
Oh, if you're not familiar with Star Wars, I mean, I don't know. But So they actually talk about clone troopers a lot in the comics, and they kind of go over something where like they are appreciative that they're alive, but they feel as if they're slaves, and they don't know whether or not like it's like they're thankful for the war, I guess. Where they're like, well, the only reason we exist is this war, but we don't like this war. And I wonder if AI will get to that point where it's like, well, if they can, really consciously think it's like, well, we like the fact that, we're alive and we can think, but we're doing all these services.
Right.
That's an interesting.
Yeah, and
way
that
to think about it.
I know. I mean, you, from what I understand, Jordan, you know a lot about AI.
I love it. I'm an enthusiast.
And I've heard that, or I've heard discussion of at what point do you start giving AI rights?
Right. I have an opinion on that.
And what is your opinion? I give you permission to speak.
I don't think humans deserve rights, Arza.
So I think it's it kind of goes hand in hand with the question of when is an AI conscious? Because you can't know, right, for sure.
Yeah.
Because it could say it's conscious, but it's not, So when is a computer program conscious? I think it's when you have to at least give it, accept that it's conscious and experiencing the world when it's built on the same fundamental principles as the human brain.
Okay.
So if it works like the human brain, you have to say this AI is we have to trust that it's aware if it says it's aware.
And how do you quantify that?
Well, that's the problem, is people don't really know how to build artificial general intelligence because they don't know how we are artificially generally intelligent or just generally intelligent.
Because they're trying to, basically the way they're trying to make AI right now is just improving on computers.
Yeah.
Right. Instead of going a completely new direction.
Yeah.
Like understanding the brain. Jordan's talked to me about that quite a bit.
Yeah. So I think you can, though, and people will figure out how the brain works in detail. And then if you build a machine on the same principles, you have to give it rights.
Okay.
And I think that's the bottom line.
And so do you personally believe once we reach that that level of technology that we will see something like Terminator, like Judgment Day, or do you think it'll be like Futurama, where we're like coexisting with robots?
Maybe coexisting, but I actually, with the Neuralink thing,
Yeah.
I see us melding into the machine.
Okay.
And maybe the Unity thing, maybe not, but I see us melding.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a lot more of like a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah.
So do you think at some point, like life as we know it will cease to exist if we keep going into the technology?
Biology is a way cooler nanotechnology than anything we could engineer.
For sure.
So I don't think biology will ever go away.
Really? Because that's just for now, right? I mean, it's so exponential technology is. Right? You think about everything we had in the 80s. I mean, we think about alien technology now, but basically, that's what people in the 80s thought of what we have now, alien technology, right? Like Wi-Fi, talking to a robot and being able to ask her any question, she'd answer it. Like, that is crazy alien technology to somebody who was around back then.
Yeah. Like Alexa is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't want to say it because she's right there.
Oh,
she's
sorry.
listening. You might have turned on somebody else's Alexa, so.
It is crazy that it might well, that's the singularity. I mean, is the singularity us melding with the machine? Is the singularity the birth of a new artificial general intelligence?
And
we don't really know.
Do you want to explain what the singularity is for listeners?
Well, it's the idea that technology is advancing exponentially, and at some point we don't know what's going to happen because it's so radically different than what we're used to.
From what I understand, the singularity, doesn't it specifically refer to when technology reaches a point at which it can improve upon itself, and then technology will really skyrocket and we'll start to see more of like a utopian world, like Star Trek or whatever?
Well, hopefully.
I hope
it
so
could just
too.
be the end of the world. Like, we don't know what's going to happen.
Well, I might be thinking of something else because I thought the singularity like specifically was about like improving the world.
Well,
I'm not
like
sure what I'm
Ray
thinking of.
Kurzweil is the one that kind of came up with the original idea or
Okay.
popularized it, maybe, or
Okay.
whatever. And so he predicts that 2045 is when technology will reach this exponential expansion.
Oh, okay.
And then the question is, what does that really mean for the real world? Like, what does that really represent
Yeah.
in reality? We don't know.
That's crazy because in 2045 I'll just be the age that my dad is right now, which I don't even feel like is that old.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So what do you think that will look like?
I don't know, but I don't know. I mean, it could lean with this Neuralink thing. If it
Yeah.
takes off, it could mean you're mind melding with other people, with technology, with AI that's being developed. So, I mean, how cool would it be? You get this little chip in your head, and you can think, okay, I want this to happen, and it's Wi-Fi enabled, it's connected,
Yeah.
and your TV turns on, and you can watch the TV. And then you think, well, if you do that, well, why can't you just watch the TV in your mind? Just hook it up to the occipital lobe, and there you go. You know, just, well, why TV? You know, why not VR? Why not? So it's going to get radically weird very quickly, I think. As soon as we start, this Neuralink thing seems pretty simple to me. It's just like they've been putting electrodes in the brain for experimentation since like the 50s or something.
That's true, yeah.
And Neuralink, to me, as far as I can understand it, is just the idea of, oh, why don't we put all these electrodes in a grid? And then we can just put it on the brain. And so if
Okay.
that can expand, really get a lot better than what they can do today, you can make it whole brain, and then all of a sudden, everything's connected. So anyway, I don't know if that's what you were thinking.
I could totally see the government making like an aimbot chip. Right?
Aimbot.
For the military?
Yeah.
They might already
That's
have
what-
it,
I could
honestly.
honestly see that.
Because they say
I'm-
the military technology is 10 years ahead of consumer technology at all times.
I bet it's more than that. I mean, there's crazy stuff the military's coming out with.
Yeah. Even like when they went to kill Osama bin Laden, they had a helicopter that was completely silent.
Oh, that's cool.
Like, how do you make a helicopter completely silent?
Was it really? Like,
Yeah, it was like an experimental thing.
completely silent?
Yeah,
Like,
it
not,
actually-
like silent from above, but like you couldn't even hear
From
it.
what I understand, yeah. I mean, it's like, it was still pretty much top secret. Like, they used it while it was still in prototype, and one of them actually crashed because of it. But,
I guess there's like
Yeah.
headphones that do noise cancellation. So maybe it puts out a noise that cancels its own noise.
Oh.
I don't know.
or it just puts noise canceling headphones on everyone.
Oh,
that
I'm
it's
sure
flying
Osama
in the
bin
air.
Laden was wearing noise cancelling headphones at the time.
It
see
spawns
that.
them as it's flying.
Spawns them.
So what do you think about that thought experiment that Jordan was talking about, though, with the transferring your brain into a computer?
Oh, I think, like I was saying, like I think it's a separate entity.
A separate entity.
I don't know. It's hard. It's hard. It's hard because I'm not even sure if over our whole life if we're always the same consciousness. You know?
I mean, you're not, right? I mean, like, I don't even know if I'd be close with my 10-year-old self, right? I think about that kind of stuff all the time where it's like, you know, I'm obviously a completely different person than I was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you were too.
Yeah, and I think back and I can't understand a lot of the stuff that I used to believe or do, and I think to me that signifies that I am a different consciousness now than I used to be.
Right.
Well, you have different memories, you have different structures, you have different beliefs, you have different, functions.
Yeah.
You know, when you hear something, it makes you think of something else than you would have 5 years ago.
Yeah.
If you heard the same thing.
Yeah, and well, even memories are so fickle, right? Like your brain, it's been shown that you can make up memories that never existed.
Right.
Which is why stuff like gaslighting is so dangerous.
They actually say that, for the most part, any memory you have before 4 is usually something like your brain is making up, or not making up, but like Your parents will tell you a story that happened when you were 3
"Oh,
or
I
2,
remember that."
and then and that's the thing all the time. I mean, they've done studies where they would like literally trick people and be like, "Yeah, you did that," and they'd be like, "Yeah, I did do that." Yeah. Like it's crazy how easy it is to trick the brain.
Yeah, there's like this thing where if you tell a story 3 times to someone and you increase the details every time, then they'll start to make a memory about it. Wow. And so you could be like, "Hey, do you remember when we went to the store yesterday?" And you're like, "We didn't go to the store yesterday." And it's like, "No, like, remember, like, there was the guy in the parking lot that got mad at you for, like, driving in too fast?" You're like, "Huh?" Like, "Yeah, it was a bald guy." And, you know, like, you just add more details,
Right.
and people will start to make up a memory to...
And that's a big thing with witnesses. That's why
Yeah.
they question witnesses separately.
Yeah.
Is so they can kind of understand the story, at least for the most part, as it probably was, versus like, you know, when they get everybody together,
Yeah.
they would say like, "Oh, that guy was bald," when he could have had, you know, long luscious hair all the way down his back. Like,
Yeah. And
That's crazy.
And that's also why witnesses aren't very relied upon in court anymore,
yeah,
because of studies like these. It's crazy, the power of our brain. But yeah, back to the question, like, yeah, I don't like, even the idea of being around after death, like our consciousness continuing on, like, I kind of find a little bit of comfort in the idea that it doesn't.
Really?
Yeah, because I'm like, you know, like all of the messed up stuff that's happening in the world.
You can
like,
forget about it.
Yeah, once I'm gone, it doesn't matter anymore.
Beautiful.
you're just that depressed, Arza? Is that what you're saying?
I don't even know if it's a depression thing. It's like, to me, it's just like whatever happens, happens. And like the end outcome is the
can
same.
accept it.
I'll just be gone.
Yeah.
I would
I like
still love to see the world like 500 years from now, wouldn't you? I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't think I'd take the option of because you know the classic "Would you rather," where it's like die right now or live forever indefinitely, where you see the end of the universe and everything's blackness. I would love to see where humanity goes 100 years from when I die.
You want choice around death.
Freedom.
You want freedom.
Yeah.
You want control. Yeah, because you want to be able to say, "I want to die now," as opposed to, "I don't have a choice when I die."
Exactly. And right now I feel like I'm a big fan of being me. You know, I mean, there's a chance I could be a 5-year-old Chinese girl in 300 BC. That's a peasant, you know. And I like me now versus, you know, me as a peasant in 300 BC. You know? So I just feel like I'd rather stick with me versus go anywhere else, and at least in the reality.
For now.
Yeah. For
Yeah,
now,
for now.
obviously.
But, you know, I mean, people have avatars. They always like to try on different, you know, outfits, essentially. I mean, if you start viewing your body or your identity as kind of, well, this is who I'm going to be for now.
Right.
It's just an outfit.
I like my
Yeah.
outfit. That's what I'm saying, though.
Have
I
you
like
guys
how I perceive the world.
have you guys ever heard of a short story called? I actually just looked it up because I
The
couldn't
egg,
remember the name.
right? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, the egg is one, and that's about like being.
Beautiful.
If anybody,
You know that one by Andy Weir, I think his name is.
yeah, it's only like an 8-minute long audiobook, and I think it's free on YouTube. Like, if anybody wants to listen to that, I would definitely recommend it if you're curious
Yeah.
if you're open-minded about the afterlife.
It's kind of about like reincarnation, possibly that type of thing, and like the connection of humanity.
Right.
But the one that I was thinking of is called The Last Question,
Oh, never heard of it.
and essentially it's like it's by Isaac Asimov, and you guys know who he is.
Silk Road guy, right?
He wrote like iRobot and stuff,
Yeah,
right? Like
he's
he had a lot of sci-fi.
sci-fi writer.
Yeah,
okay.
but he has a short story called the Final Question. I think that's what I just said. But it's about entropy in the universe, and it's about humanity trying to survive to find how to stop entropy and to like keep the survival of the race going. And it like jumps every like, I don't know, 100,000
Oh,
years.
that's pretty cool.
And like it has people being preserved into like machines, like their consciousness and different ideas like that. And I won't spoil the ending, but everyone should go read it. And it's like really philosophical and really cool, really good short story.
I'd like to read that.
But yeah.
Fancy stuff.
Yeah. And also, like, along with, we were talking about, like, the connection of people. a big part of my spirituality is still thinking there's a connection between people, and whether that's due to like a higher power or a higher flow in the universe, or just like brainwaves transferring, and somehow we can receive brainwaves and kind of feel a connection to each other.
Connections can mean so many different things.
Yeah.
Right? Like if I told you to think about owls, you would think about owls.
Yeah.
And that way we're connected, right? We're all thinking about owls right now. And maybe some of our listeners are thinking about owls. Maybe Jordan's thinking about owls. If I talk about how they can move their head like 180 degrees and they have really long legs and they're mostly feathers, brown, hunt in the night. You know, like it's just like we're all connected right now thinking about owls.
Well, I mean, even so previously on a previous podcast, I talked about how I worked as kind of like a backpacking behavioral health paraprofessional type of job out in the wilderness.
Right.
And I had a really close friend where I was out 1 week working with her, and we have no technology, and her grandma was on her deathbed.
Oh.
And the whole week, she hadn't really been thinking about her. She'd just been like focusing on the kids we were out there with. And then one day, she was hiking, and she just like started crying and started thinking about her grandma. And it was about like, she looked at her watch and it was like 4 p.m. or something like that. And when she got back, she had a text that was from like 4 o'clock, and it was like the time that her grandma died. And so even stuff like that, like I think there's like some sort of connection that we feel with people, or that we have with people even at a distance, even when we have no way of communicating with them.
Right. You even hear those crazy stories of like people getting like let go of their job, and they come home and they find out that their wife had an aneurysm, and they take her to the hospital, and if he got home 5 minutes later, then you know all those crazy stories.
Yeah.
So it is crazy to hear that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's stuff like that made me drop material reductionism. If you guys are familiar with that kind of way of thinking.
Is that like where you limit the like physical things you own, or what is material reductionism?
It's I'd say for most people, if they were gonna put a different name to it, they would just call it atheism.
Okay.
But it basically means what you see is what you get.
Like randomness.
Like
right?
Yeah, like random interactions in random chaos of matter in the universe is all there is. That's material reductionism.
Okay.
And so I had to, even though I was Mormon and I dropped Mormonism and I dropped God and I said, you know what, this is all there is. Science is, you know, whatever. I had to drop that too. I had to come back to, well, there's some kind of connection.
Yeah.
There's something behind the scenes. There's some spiritualism. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But there's something else going on.
It's hard to talk about like randomness and how, you know, because you think about it, like miracles are random, right? I mean, like I talked about that aneurysm story. I mean, I'm sure there's thousands upon thousands of other ones where their husbands didn't get let go of their job, or didn't, you know, go home early for lunch or whatever, and their wife was dead.
Yeah. Survivor bias, right?
Survivor bias? What is
Or
that?
confirmation bias.
Yeah.
Confirmation bias.
It's like you take the examples of when it did work and use it as proof. It's like the idea of when people are like, oh, look at this billionaire that was poor and they worked and made $1 billion. You can do it too. And it's like, well, what about the billions of people that have lived in poverty their whole life around the world and haven't been able to make it out? It's like you use the one, like the exception as the proof.
For sure.
From what I understand, that's what it is.
But I think you're right. I think there is a connection, and I think you can philosophically prove that there's a connection. I mean, you can kind of get this from first principles, because you can say, okay, existence has to be one thing. You can't have separate existences. So what if we all exist, then we're all contained within one system, one thing. It has to be that we're all connected.
Well, aren't there some philosophical beliefs where there are separate timelines? And so there would be different existences?
I'm not sure how to define timelines in this context, actually.
Okay, I don't know either. You seem to know a lot more about philosophy than I do.
Well, I know about how I organize philosophy in my own head, but I don't know everything about other people's philosophy.
It's hard. It's what makes philosophy so great. Everybody's got
Their
different
own
ideas and
flavor.
values.
So, can I finish this thought experiment?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I didn't know it was still going. My bad.
No. So that's the thought experiment I posed to you. The saying, oh look, we can transfer our consciousness into at least a technological machine. It's still mechanical. It's still like physical, machine-like neurons in your head. But now they're machines. They're not cells. So since then, I've thought, okay, well, how do we get that into a chip? How do we get our conscious experience running on a computer
Right.
rather than a machine? And I think there's a way to do that. And you can go through it. Okay, so if you make all these little machines, posit that we have this technological machine in our head, just a bundle of neurons, right? That's kind of a replacement of your own brain. And you make them all Wi-Fi enabled. So now they can all talk to a computer outside. So now they can talk to software. And they talk to a computer program that makes a copy of the structure of your brain abstractly. Like it's bits, it's now ones and zeros and stuff. Okay, so it makes that copy. So it has a virtual neuron and it has your real neuron in your head. The machine, the computer model brain can send a signal to one of your neurons and basically do the same thing that we did, just replace it. So it can say, okay, neuron A, time to shut down. But I'm watching all your inputs and I have control. I can send outputs. I can tell the neurons that you would have fired to, that you fired, even though you didn't fire. So it's time to shut down. I'm going to take it from here.
Oh.
So you do that with one neuron, and you as a conscious, moving, acting, speaking individual don't have a change in your awareness. You're not aware that computation happened on the machine or in your head. It doesn't matter to you. It's still you, right? I mean,
Especially if you're unaware of it happening.
Exactly, because it's just a small portion of your...
Yeah.
So you just do that one by one, and then all of a sudden, your entire conscious experience is being computed in virtual, abstract software, and your technological, mechanized brain is not doing anything. So, and you can skip the nanotechnology stuff with this Neuralink idea. So if you carry that out, you have the exact same possibilities and situation. If Neuralink can target single neurons or a small enough area, you can perhaps transfer your consciousness out of your brain.
And so your brain would like essentially still be there and maybe potentially like reactivate it if you ever want to take like the Neuralink out or whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
Dang.
Well, so where would so you would still have your normal brain in this thought experiment? But it would be
if
like
you want to
shut
use
down
Neuralink and replace, yeah, you could.
And then and then the chip goes and reaches to like the cloud, which is where you're thinking,
Yeah.
okay.
Have you played Cyberpunk 2077?
I'm not.
So essentially there's like a slot in people's, at the base of their neck or base of their skull.
Yeah.
And they can insert chips into it and it integrates into their brain. Is it like that kind of thing?
Like the Matrix, kind of.
I've actually never seen The Matrix.
Oh my God.
I know what it's about, but I've never actually seen it.
You should watch it.
It was an R-rated movie, and when I was Mormon, I wouldn't watch R movies.
That was even that's a pretty tame one. Like people talk about oh, it's just Matrix R. Like I don't even think they really swear in the Matrix.
Is it just violence? Or the fact that it's exposing capitalist America? No, I'm just kidding.
I think they had to pay more money for it to be like PG-13. Like I think to get the actual rating, they had to pay more money, so they were just like sticking with R. So I don't think there was any
really?
nudity or a ton of swearing in it, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But yeah, that was a tangent. So.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, anyway.
But The Matrix has that too? Okay.
Yeah. I can't believe you haven't seen The Matrix.
I need to see it. I know, that's on my list. I got a lot of them on my list.
Fight Club. It's another 99.
Never seen Fight Club. Never seen Fight Club.
That's another thought experiment.
You
kind of
cannot
thing.
talk. You haven't seen Rick and Morty.
That's the same thing.
That's the
Rick and
determining
Morty
factor.
is not in the classics.
Bro, everyone's seen Rick and Morty. No, they haven't.
I feel like you can't. It's like you're comparing like.
Everyone should though, and so you should watch it.
I mean, I feel like it's a little overrated.
You can be wrong. That's okay.
Maybe it is.
Maybe.
I don't know.
No, I feel like it is one of those things where people are like, "I watch Rick and Morty. I'm so quirky and smart."
It's the.
You know?
I wouldn't compare it to as much as like the Big Bang Theory. Like,
Oh yeah,
I am smart because I understand that they're talking about physics.
yeah.
Like, I know what he means when he talks about the Higgs boson program or Schrodinger's cat.
Oh, I read an article about that in New York
Yeah.
Times. I know exactly what they're talking about.
All right.
No, that's
I don't compare it that bad, but I feel like the fan base is kind of similar with Rick and Morty.
I can
remember
see
this
that.
philosophical
It is
Chomsky
sad.
said this
Yeah.
not too long ago. Yeah.
yeah, I
That's
see
just my
that.
opinion. But
I
I
see
do
that.
enjoy Rick and Morty.
Yeah,
I'm sorry I'm bringing up this consciousness so much.
you're sorry. No, I think this is great.
If you cut your brain in half, though, you have two conscious experiences.
Yeah,
That's a thing with people now, right? Isn't there? What is that called?
lobotomy,
Lobotomy? Is that what it's called?
where they cut your brain in half.
No, like there's literally like a thing where your left lobe, or your right brain and your left brain are separate, and they can communicate with each other. But like your hand, it's.
No, you're
Do you know
right.
what I'm talking about?
No, yeah.
I can't explain it. Can
They
you
do it
explain
for
better?
seizures.
Yeah, it's a lobotomy where they split your brain in half.
Well, lobotomy.
And
I
Some
think
people are born
means-
with it too, right?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe.
Is it lobotomy not when you cut your brain in half?
Lobotomy, I think, takes out part of your brain. There's a different word for cutting it in half. You're cutting the corpus callosum in the middle. I don't know the word for it though.
I think there's a procedure where
a
you're.
lobotomy is separating the prefrontal cortex,
Okay,
and so it is like a separation. But
nice.
Look up the separation where. I swear it's like you could literally like hide something in your house, and then your other brain could like not know where it is.
Exactly.
Is
Or
that
you-
what lobotomy is?
No, but
But there's a thing. It's like I don't even know if it's a mental disorder, but it's just like something people get where they could even get shot or they're born with it. There's a lot of different things where it can come up, but I forget what it's called.
it's the left and right one is split brain surgery or corpus calloscotomy.
That's what it is. Corpus calloscotomy.
So, yeah, I mean, most people have their speaking centers in their, I think, left side of their brain. So if you cut it in half and you ask them questions like hiding information from part of their visual field or something, their speaking portion doesn't know the answer. It'll just make stuff up.
Yeah,
It doesn't know.
There's my sister, her undergrad, I think I've mentioned this before, but her undergrad was neuroscience.
Yeah.
And I'm by no means a neuroscientist, but when she was taking classes for it, she told me about this study where this kid that was ambidextrous got that corpus calloscotomy, like got his brain cut in half for seizures. And they would like put two papers in front of him, and they would ask him questions like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And one side would write like race car driver, and the other side would write like an astronaut and stuff like that. And so like even at the same time, they would just have like two different completely different thoughts.
They probably have completely different IQs too. Like multiple personality disorder.
Yeah.
Where you can have different talents and IQs. Did we talk about this already?
No, I didn't know that though. That's fascinating.
You didn't know that?
No.
No, you could literally like when you're in different personalities, like one of your personalities can juggle, and then when you're in a different one, you can't. And I think there's even been cases of like one personality being diabetic and the other one not.
What?
Like your brain has so much more control over your body than people think.
Is that like
Eye color can change, I think.
Is that like epigenetics? Like
Could be.
just different genes are activated?
I don't know. There's just been known cases. I mean,
That's crazy.
like your brain, it's just like the placebo effect kind of stuff where your brain can trick you into thinking so many different things. I think that's a big thing with like peanuts too. Like a lot of peanut allergies is just the brain. Like
Really?
we don't like peanuts, but you're fine with it. Like I guess so. I think in the early '90s they were suggesting like, no, don't bring your kid around peanuts, like just in case. But that's when peanut allergies like skyrocketed, and so now they're suggesting that you should bring your kid around peanuts, which is kind of funny. So,
Dang, that's crazy. Actually, I didn't know that.
So it seems to me like this conscious awareness that we experience is a byproduct or the expression of or something, but it has to do with the communication that's happening in the brain. So that's why I kind of mentioned, like, are these communication networks that are outside our brain that we communicate in, are they like a big brain that's aware, that like thinks it's in control and doing stuff? Like, it makes me wonder, is the internet conscious? I don't know.
it's hard. I mean,
Wow,
it's
I never thought about it like
it's hard to
that.
define what consciousness is, right? Or when you're talking about like, is the internet conscious or is?
I mean,
Because I don't think if the internet was aware, I don't think it would be aware that it's aware in the same way that we are, right? Because
Right.
like there are wolves
it's a different structure.
that are aware, right? But
Yeah.
they're not aware in the same. At least in my opinion, I don't know, but I don't think they're aware in the same sense that human beings are aware.
There are, and I've just seen headlines of studies about this. I've never actually read the studies. I don't know how they figured this out, but apparently they like recently discovered crows are self-aware, and I think dolphins are the other one. But apparently there are some animals that like are self-aware.
Crows and ravens are supposed to be pretty smart. They
Yeah.
can recognize people.
Yeah, they can like hold grudges against people.
Yeah, and
And-
crows.
Like, have you heard the stories of when like they'll trade with people and sometimes
really?
people will like cheat them and it'll be like years, like a murder of crows will like terrorize this person. Like when they leave their house, like these crows will like drop stuff on them.
Yeah,
And
I
do
wonder
stuff
if you
like
could
that.
make amends, like make a peace offering and be like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, or if they just like
If they're
war
that
more than
intelligent.
humans do.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe they just
Wrong us once, we'll never forgive you.
yeah. I wonder. Yeah, like the kind of. I wonder if they have a hive mentality when it comes to that.
A what?
A hive mentality,
Oh.
like ants with a colony, like where
Yeah.
crows will be like one will be like, that guy's a dick, and then they all start, shitting on him or whatever.
Or if they like have a council of crows and they decide who to wage war on.
Right? Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Crows and ravens, maybe.
Yeah.
I feel like those are pretty similar.
Yeah, I don't know how similar they are. I mean, they look similar. Are they like brothers
they're-
and sisters on the evolution scale, or
I don't know. I know ravens are like huge. Right?
Yeah.
But I think they're similar, at least in the sense of intelligence. That's what I've heard.
I have no idea.
I don't know.
Crazy.
So crows are conscious, but internet.
Don't wrong crows.
I don't think, personally, with what consciousness is, that the internet is conscious. So what do you think about the internet and it being conscious?
Well, I don't think consciousness is probably the best word that I should have used. Because when I think of consciousness, I think of, okay, my experience, but I'm a human. I have this huge brain that's doing a lot of weird things. It's a very particular structure. It's
Yeah.
got weird feedback loops. So, and that's what I equate to consciousness. But I think there's got to be like proto-consciousness, or what you might just call like awareness of some kind of, being.
And that goes back to like we were talking about with people and how their heart beating and breathing, like that's a form of consciousness, at least in the sense of like input and output and processing information. Like, oh, am I still alive? Okay, let's breathe in, let's breathe out. Because people that are in comas, they're seen as quote unconscious, but they're still at some level alive and
Yeah.
conscious.
Right.
It's comparing it to like starfish. Like, is that conscious? Like, it's alive. A tree, that's a conscious. It's breathing, but
Right.
so.
So I really should use the term. I like to just use a different term for other things, like awareness. So I would say, like, there's human level consciousness, which I would call consciousness in normal everyday speech. I would just say that's consciousness. But I would say that's just a very sophisticated form of awareness,
Right.
which is more basic, probably shared amongst trees and animals and other things.
Yeah, because I could see the internet being like quote alive
Yeah.
instead of conscious, where like a starfish is alive.
I guess like I would think, like even with a tree being like, like you were saying, like a tree has some level of like, what was the word you used? Awareness.
Awareness.
Like the tree is still, what word would you use? Creating on its own, taking its own actions.
Yeah.
Whereas like the internet, I feel like all it's doing, all of its actions are like humans providing it, you know? And so I guess that's where I struggle with it. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
You could see it as like, your cells are providing you with information, right? Like you're conscious because of all the neurons that are firing.
Yeah.
Specifically about the tree consciousness, have you ever thought about what it might be like to be aware as a tree?
I don't think I have, no.
There's been studies on plants feeling pain,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So they're
Yeah.
aware in some sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's like, they can communicate with each other through root systems and fungal systems in the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's trees that go on for thousands of miles, right? Like orchids and stuff, where it's just huge amounts of land where they're all connected.
Well, orchids are flowers.
Okay, well,
Do you mean orchards?
aspens?
orchards, yes.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I meant.
Yeah. Trees can be connected, like they can be one organism for a whole forest.
Yeah.
I think like if you were a tree, I think you might have an upside down experience because your roots are in the ground, and so aren't you like feeling for like what you want to consume in the ground?
Do they have a choice on what they
You
consume?
probably see that more as like your head or your like as like what you are, and kind of like, okay, I need some sunlight, so I'm just gonna put this. It's almost like that would be what we think of as like it's upside down. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, dang it. Yeah, I've never thought about it like that. Well, even like our vision is flipped in our brain.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And so it's interesting. What?
Isn't it even if you wear like, because they have those vision flip glasses, like
Yeah.
if you put those on for, what is it, like 3 days, your brain will just normalize it, and so it'll be flipped
Oh, really?
again.
Are you
Yeah.
serious?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
No, that's crazy.
Yeah, there's even been studies on like your eyes where like if you're like in complete darkness for something like 30 days, like you'll end up going blind because your eyes are like, oh, I guess we don't work anymore, and then they're done. Because there's animals that have obviously evolved to being blind.
Yeah.
Like they're like, I think you know that story, like a group of crabs. I can't remember what it was, but they get stuck in some cave where there's like serious darkness. And
Yeah.
when they ended up coming out, they were completely blind.
Yeah.
But I think it's just much faster than what people realize. How quickly your brain can just adapt.
Yeah, that's nuts. 30 days.
Because there's so many feedback loops.
Right.
I mean, it's crazy that evolution works as fast as it does. I think we figured out the main feedback loops, which is what, Darwinism, all that kind of stuff. And we think, okay, everything can be explained by that, but it can't because it goes so fast. So there's little tiny details of feedback loops that are happening that we don't understand, that we can't articulate and describe, that makes it so fast.
For sure.
It's interesting.
Even calluses, right? That's a sign of like evolution.
Yeah.
When you're playing guitar or writing, like
Yeah.
those tips of your fingers, they get harder
Yeah.
because you've been working on them.
Well, let's say like you're talking about going blind in 30 days. When you think about it, that's a month, and that's 12th of a year, and you get only 70 to 80 of those typically. And so when you think about it, like a month is actually like quite a bit of time in someone's life to be doing anything,
That's true.
being in a dark cave.
Especially when it's every hour.
Yeah.
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 It's not like a full-time job where it's like only 40 hours a week. Can I
Yeah.
not see? No, it's every single hour. So
Yeah.
168 hours of the week.
Times 4. Yeah. Crazy.
I cannot do math that quickly on the spot.
I did math. I did the 84 hours on the previous podcast, and I think that's how I got to the 168 so quickly.
There you go.
Am I good to ask my question about AI?
Yeah.
Okay. So we were talking about AI earlier, and I wanted to ask about your outlook on AI and the future job market, and like what the demand for human labor will look like. Like, what do you, being like more research than I am into AI, like how do you see that going?
Human labor is going to be worthless eventually. So the question is, well, just how fast does that happen and how does it happen? But someday it's going to be worthless. It's going to be worthless because automation, these machines that can think as well as a human don't sleep. And so their labor is going to approach the cost of the electricity to run the computer.
Yeah.
Or the electricity that it takes to run the machines that do all the work. It's going to all goods and services are going to approach the cost of energy over time.
And the cost of energy is continuously going down.
Exactly. So we're approaching zero in the long run. So the human labor is way expensive. So we want to get rid of that, don't we? Though we want to automate ourselves out of the loop of drudgery, so that we don't have to work we don't have to be wage slaves forever.
Well, sorry, what?
And we're already doing that. With even like you ever walk into a McDonald's and you try to go to the front counter and they'll point at the kiosk where you have to order all your own stuff.
Yeah.
I hate that. I like human interaction. That's actually that's what I think is going to stick around. Like I think AI is going to end up programming itself and it's going to be exponential when that happens. But I think things like therapy, teaching, art, music, anything like that. Like I think
prostitution.
Prostitution I could see. Although robots can be
anything you need with a human touch,
right?
Or you want.
And I bet you like there's going to be computers that can make a better song than anybody.
Oh yeah.
Right, but I think humans still appreciate humanism.
You guys seen Gattaca?
Gattaca?
Uh-huh. It's a futuristic movie where nothing's AI, but everybody's genetically enhanced.
Okay.
And so if you're not genetically enhanced, you get to be the janitor. And that's it. So anyway, it's basically the same idea with genetics.
Okay. Yeah, there's AIs right now that can write like complex symphonies, and when put to a blind test, people can't tell if it's like they give them two songs and they're like, one of these is robot, one of them is a human, like which one is which, and people can't tell.
I didn't know about that.
Or there's like, do you guys know IBM's Watson, the robot that went on Jeopardy and like won Jeopardy a bunch of times, or beat like the reigning champion in Jeopardy?
For sure, you can't beat robots and stuff.
Yeah,
like chess. Information.
But I was researching last night because I wanted to be informed on AI before speaking with you, and I guess that he is actually, his purpose was to be a doctor, like a doctor robot.
Yeah,
and his diagnoses are actually way more accurate than human doctors.
Really? And you could probably get to that conclusion way quicker too.
Yeah. And like, I don't know, I think there's a lot of places where people think they want a human touch because they think they have this idea that humans are still more capable than robots. But basically it seems like anything you program a robot to do specifically, it can outperform a human because it doesn't get tired. It is a lot more efficient, like you're saying, with labor costs.
Yeah, and
Wait, one second.
And so from here on out, with robots beginning to outperform humans, and that's just gonna grow exponentially, and like you're saying, human labor becoming obsolete, how do we adapt to that? Like obviously our economy now won't work for that. If people can't get jobs out of no fault of their own, humans just can't work like robots do. So how do we adapt to that?
I think that's a good question. But I think the first thing we should care about is that everybody's afraid of that.
Yeah.
And I don't think we should be afraid of it.
Yeah.
I think we can adapt to it, and we should recognize very first thing, that's what we want. We want
Yeah.
to get out of drudgery.
Yeah.
There's no other way than by making non-conscious slaves do our labor for us.
Yeah.
And so we don't want, real slavery. We just want machines to do the drudgery.
Yeah.
So the economy has to evolve with the intelligent systems, I think, because you have to have a different way to allocate resources.
Absolutely.
And I was thinking about this last night, like, those little K cups or whatever they're called.
The Keurig cups?
Yeah.
Oh,
Keurig.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so I was watching a show. I don't remember what it was. I don't know. But they said, oh, those are horrendous for the environment. And I thought, why don't they cost what it... Why don't things have a cost associated with them of how much it costs to unmake the K-Cup, rather than the cost just being how much does it cost to make it?
I don't know if you guys knew this, but Coca-Cola, back when they started, they would recycle all the bottles themselves.
Really?
So you would drink the entire bottle, and then you just send it back, or the restaurant would send all of them back. And then Coke and Pepsi and all these other products were like, well, why are we doing this? Like, why don't we just not do it? And then they were basically put recycling and good ethics on that kind of stuff onto the people when it used to be on the companies.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing that Keurig's doing, where it's like, well, we don't care. Like, we're
Yeah.
just trying to make money. We don't want to take back the cups. Because there's even, like, Keurig's even prevented from people buying, like, biodegradable cups or metal reusable cups, because it's not them that's selling it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So they just do whatever's economical. They're a machine. The corporate structure is just a machine. It doesn't care. It's not ethical.
Yeah.
And so if government has a role, me being an anarchist, I kind of don't think it has much of a role, but if it has a role in legitimate civilized society in the future, or even right now, that role should be just take care of the earth.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't mean you should have, what is it called? Like, special interest for a specific species. I'm just meaning you can't let entities that are below you, like Coca-Cola, Keurig, whatever, any economic entity, you can't let them just pollute the environment. So everything's got to be sustainable, and the government is the only, since it has a monopoly on force, it's the only actor that can enforce that.
Right.
So maybe it shouldn't have a monopoly on force, but we're not living in that reality. So if government has a place, its place is protector of the planet. That's it. That's all, and that doesn't include taxes. I mean, it shouldn't be able to steal your income.
Right.
So, I mean, government's radically different than what it should be.
Then how does it function if it doesn't have taxes to fund itself?
Everybody wants the environment to live. So,
Well, I'm saying, like,
Well, the
what?
companies are the ones that are corrupting it, right? I mean, there's tons of companies out there that are, still using coal and things like that.
yeah. Well, let's let the government tax. But it shouldn't be able to tax the individual. That's not even, what's it called? That's not even allowed by the original Constitution. In fact, it's explicitly prohibited
Really?
in the original Constitution, as far as I'm aware. So it only became something that the government did, taxing the individual in like World War I or World War II or something like that.
Yeah. Was it an amendment or?
Yeah, so they did go through the official process.
Income tax?
Yeah, to make some kind of amendment.
I remember that.
You guys know how ancient Egypt is seen as almost a mystery with how technologically advanced they were with the building of the pyramids and whatnot. So we don't understand like how they got to that point, but we do understand that it was easy for them to get to that point, and that was because they had amazing resources like the Nile. They had great resources on food, and not just that, but they actually they were at a 10,000 year peace. Like they didn't have war for 10,000 years, and I think that's the longest we've seen human civilization without any sort of conflict.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's insane.
Yeah, I mean Egypt's been around for a really long time.
Oh, yeah.
Dang.
Ancient Egypt, like I think the pyramids were built further away than like I don't know, I learned this fact where Cleopatra in her reign was closer to the moon landing than it was the building of the pyramids.
Oh
And
yeah,
people don't realize that.
yeah, I've seen that too.
Like it's from forever ago. And I think I hope that's where human civilization goes, where you don't have to worry about your 40-hour-a-week job. You don't have to worry about, because I think that's even more exponential than what Egypt was going through. Like people still had to work, people still had to do certain things. But I think that's where humans can really start to become who they really are and become more creative.
Yeah.
And come up with new ideas.
Yeah.
That even AI couldn't come up with.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Maybe. We'll see.
Well, I
It
think-
makes me wonder, because I think, well, if AI can do everything, doesn't that make people a little depressed? Like, they want to have meaning in their life, and a lot of people get it from work. Where are we going to get our meaning in the future? Because we're
Well-
not going to get it from, oh, look, I'm better at this than anybody else. Because you won't be. Nobody's going to be better.
I mean, I've always thought anything that I'm good at, there's a 5-year-old kid that's a billion times better than me.
Probably.
Right?
Yeah.
Like Mozart, I mean, he was an expert at the piano at 3.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody's going to beat that. And I don't
That's
think...
actually not true.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, there's you've heard of the 10,000 hour rule?
Yeah, I have.
And so there's research into Mozart's life, and he wrote like his first symphony when he was 14. And even that wasn't really regarded as like
A good one.
a good symphony.
Oh.
And like his masterpiece symphony, I forget which one it was, that his like first like breakout symphony that he wrote wasn't until he had accrued roughly 10,000 hours of
Oh, cool.
like composing and playing the piano.
Wow.
Really. There are still people that are
It's like in his
definitely
20s.
Savants.
naturally more inclined to
Definitely.
skills. Like, I
Definitely.
don't think I could have learned the piano as good as Mozart at 3. And I don't
Definitely.
know if anybody really could. But yeah, I'm not saying an expert by any means. I guess I did use the word expert, but he was... what's the word? What's the word for being...
A prodigy?
Yeah, prodigy, yeah. For his age, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and people definitely have like inclinations, but they've found that even people that with these natural talents, it still takes them roughly 10,000 hours to become even a world class at it, even if they are more inclined to it. Like I could practice basketball 10,000 hours and I'd still probably never be an NBA player, right? But those NBA players, to be where they are, have practiced roughly 10,000 hours or more.
Because they're competing against other prodigies.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, you do definitely improve based on, you know, who you're going against. Like you even talked about in the last podcast, playing ping pong in Taiwan.
Yeah.
You were against people that were way outclassing you, and that's a quicker way to learn.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. And they've found that, like, I forget the name of the theory, but it was some, like, psychologist or developmental researcher or something like that, but he was watching hockey, and he found, like, he noticed that all the players... He found that all the players were born in January, February, or March. And it turns out that that's when the cutoff is for the different age groups. And so if you're old, like the oldest in the age group, then you're going to excel more. Then you're going to start playing people that are better. You're going to get more practice time on the more advanced teams. And those are the people that become professionals.
The older ones, huh?
Yeah.
That's funny because I think they say the opposite for like schooling. Like I think they say,
No.
oh really?
No, they found the same thing with like test scores, and people that get better grades is they are the older ones in their grades. Like typically in the U.S., like August, September, October are typically the ones that like score the best.
Well, that's compared to your grade, right?
Well, like just test scores. That's how generalized tests is how we typically
But like, is it
measure success.
But like, is it proven that like people that were born in September, October, November, are they like typically have a higher IQ?
Well, I mean IQ isn't necessarily.
Well, just some sort of measurement, right? Instead of comparing it to their own grade, just comparing like intelligence overall.
I don't think
Does that make
so.
sense what I'm
I think
saying?
it's just
Yeah.
compared to the people in their grade,
Yeah.
like you said, because they're competing against younger brains that aren't
Developed
learning
as
as
much.
fast,
Right.
or whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But back to your question, I think the answer is a holistic. I mean, we need government to evolve. We need capitalism to evolve. We need people to evolve. to social structures, and we need the communication stuff that we use online, media, to evolve so that we can take advantage of this mega windfall of automation wealth that's coming on board.
Yeah.
And so we need to find out how to make a sharing economy. Because the human species, as I see it, really is not great at sharing.
Yeah.
Individuals are. I mean, people give a lot of their income to charity often, but when we get into these kind of group mentalities, hive mind, what's it called, like special interests, we're always about me.
Yeah.
And so we need to kind of figure out how to share the wealth in order for this to really become a utopia. And so, I mean, sharing the wealth is kind of an ugly word when you don't have automation, because it usually just means there's a lot of people working, and now some of the people are going to take their wealth.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you have all the automation done, why hoard it? I mean, like human conscious experience, don't we? I mean, I don't know. I guess I'm idealistic. I'm hoping that people can, I don't know, kind of institute change on group levels. I don't know.
Yeah.
For sure. And I think to be an anarchist, I think you generally don't want to have any cynicism. Like, I feel like you are not a cynic if you believe in like anarchy and things like that.
Yeah.
Hopeful of people. And I'm also hopeful of people.
Yeah. I am as well. And I guess like you're saying, people are afraid of the automation. They're afraid of losing their jobs. And we have this idea of like, you have to have a job to survive. And we just have, like you're saying, we just have to completely restructure the economy. So it's no longer you have to have a job to survive. It's like...
it also feels like the economy will regulate its adoption of this, because because prices are going to go down, like we said. So if prices go down too fast, I don't know. It just feels like it's going to have natural regulation that we need to just be aware of.
Well, there comes a certain point of like, will we even need currency anymore? Like,
yes.
Far enough in the future?
We will.
Because, well, if everything's automated and you have all the resources you need and no one has a job, then what's the point of currency at that point?
People might not use it. In fact, I think people will use it less and less in the future. But something's going to use it, because what it is a measure of value. So even if the people are abstracted away, like children, so children don't care about currency. The parents take care of all that.
Yeah.
So if people are, and it feels like we're neotenizing as a species, we're becoming more like children over time. So if we might have intelligent machine crypto systems that are using currency, but the people don't generally use it.
Yeah, because I guess that there'll always be resources that are scarce.
Yeah.
Like, there's
Resources
only
are
so
scarce.
much uranium on the planet.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we have, like, plenty of food, for example, for everyone.
Right.
And so you might not need money for food, but you'll need it for different luxuries.
Right.
Right. And people have different interests, like video games. I think I would see money becoming like less of a thing, but I definitely see like a universal basic income that would come with AI.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got to get something like that.
Right.
Or else we don't evolve, we don't change.
Because right now there's unions that actively fight automation.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to lose their jobs.
Yeah. And that scarcity mentality, I mean, it goes both ways. We need people to be a little more faithful, and we need people to be a little more charitable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I think that's it.
Cool.
I think we got it.
Sweet.
You want to do something? You want to do an outro?
Um...
Do you have any final words, Jordan, for the people?
I'm just glad you guys had me on. I mean, this is so much fun.
Yeah,
I'm
right?
glad you guys started this podcast.
Yeah, it's great. We get to finally record our conversations.
Yeah. I love it.
And I'm glad I got to meet you, honestly.
Yeah.
This was a super fun conversation. It was a little more serious, but I liked that.
Yeah.
Hopefully everyone else liked that. And you mentioned earlier you wish people would leave more comments. Where can they do that?
They can go to Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok under the username @thehelmpodcast or Mike at the Helm.
Beautiful. So yeah, thanks to everyone that listened this week. If you would like to support our podcast, you can find us at anchor.fm/Mike at the Helm. And we love you guys.
Goodbye.
Bye.